Good afternoon. How is everybody doing? I hope you're hanging in there. We're going to play a little catch up on the Fani Willis debacle. So take a load off, Fanny, and we're just going to get right into this and let it go. I'm pretty interested in seeing what I missed out on because I wasn't able to do a lot of this because life. So here we go. This is from earlier today, and we'll just play some catch up with it. So enjoy. I'm going to have it run it at a faster speed so that way you guys can sort of, if you're wondering why it looks a little funky, that's why, because I'm running it at a faster speed. Like hey, Phoenix Fire.
Good Roy Eugene Barnes.
Good to see you.
Royeugene Barnes, Barnes.
Good morning, Mr. Barnes. Can you tell the court a little bit about your background as it relates to your service in public service?
I was first elected to the state senate in 1974 from Cobb County, and I served 16 years there.
Roy Barnes.
And then in 1990, I ran for governor and was defeated. And 2 years later, I went back to the House of Representatives. I was elected to the House of Representatives, served 6 years until I was elected governor in 1998, and I served in that position until January of 2003.
And after serving in the position of governor, can you tell the court a little bit about what you transitioned into after your public service?
I did exactly what I was doing before. I was elected. I went back to practicing law in Marietta, Georgia, with my daughter, who's now judge of the state court, and my son-in-law. And now I have, I think, 6 or 7 lawyers. Charlie Bailey back there was one of them at one time.
Okay. And Governor Barnes, would you consider yourself to be a trial lawyer?
Yes. Okay. We don't write contracts or we don't write wills. All we do is try cases.
And I want to direct your attention back to 2021, where you approached by the district attorney of Fulton County, Fani Willis, about being a special prosecutor.
I was. I don't recall the exact date, but I know it was sometime in 2021. And she asked me to come down, and I met with her and Nathan Wade, and there were several other in the meeting. She asked me that they were beginning this investigation, and she asked me if I'd be interested in being special prosecutor, to which I replied that I had mouths to feed at a law office and that I would not do that. And also I just had I won't say bad because it happens from time to time, but I just had the FBI to report a fella, a militia trainer, to me that said they were concerned that he was making threats against me. And because I thought it was because of the flag, but I asked him and he said, no, it was because I was too close to the Jews, quote unquote. And I told DA Willis I'd lived with bodyguards for 4 years and I didn't like it. And I wasn't going to live with bodyguards for the rest of my life.
So ultimately you turned down?
Yes. Yeah, I told her. I said, I'm not interested.
Nothing further from the state.
Yo.
Ms.
Morning, Governor Barnes.
Morning.
How are you?
Just fine. How are you?
Good to see you.
See you.
You said it was sometime in 2021. Do you remember?
I think it was. I don't remember the dates. They all go. I could look it up on my calendar at the office, but I don't have that.
Well, I want to ask you about some statements that Ms. Willis made March 28th, 2021. She was talking about assembling a team for this case. Are you familiar with her work assembling a team for this case?
Something special.
Well, I assume that's what she was talking to me about. But besides that, I don't know anything.
I know you said you had a meeting with some folks and Mr. Wade was at that meeting?
Correct.
Okay. So he was with the district attorney interviewing you about taking
Of course, I know Nathan very well. And I exchanged pleasantries with him, but the conversation was with Ms. Willis.
Okay, with Ms. Willis. Were you aware at the time that her team consisted of Brian Watkins, Megan Vargas, Sonia Allen, Shannon Trotty, Sal Chan, and John Floyd? She had reported that was her team on this case.
I know John Floyd was involved, and she probably told me the others, but listen, I barely remember what case I tried last year, much less every word that was said in the conversation.
I understand, fair enough. But she said she was looking to hire more lawyers and investigators to work on this case.
She told me, it was to me, she said, would you be interested in being special prosecutor in this case? And I gave the reply that I've already known. I mean, about hiring other lawyers or whatever, I don't know. All I can testify to is what she told me.
Did she tell you at all why she wanted to hire special counsel and not use someone who was an ADA, not have an actual employee?
No, she did not. I mean, we did not discuss that. And but I would assume it was because in a case as big as this that you'd have to have some decision help. I know John Floyd has been in some cases over the years out in Cobb County, for example, and others.
Would you agree that an employee of her office, someone who was paid a state salary or a county salary as an ADA, could handle a case like this?
I couldn't tell you that unless I knew the person, knew their experience, and really had been with them in a courtroom to
All right.
pass an opinion on that.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Say no.
Hello, Mr. Saydow.
It's been a while.
It has been a while.
I hope you're well.
I'm doing fine, just getting older, but that beats all.
That's true, but that applies to all of us, I believe.
Yes, yes,
I think you indicated that if you had your calendar, you'd be able to pinpoint a date for
I
it.
would.
Is there a way for you, for example, to break before you actually leave to contact your folks to see if you can get a date?
I guess I could. I don't know how far back we archived those, but I assume I could.
Would you be willing to give that a shot for
I
us?
mean, I'll do whatever the court instructs.
So if I ask the court and the court says, go ahead and you can do it, that's all right?
I'll do whatever the court instructs.
I hear you.
And you should too.
I try to live by those words. I'm not always successful, but I try. If I pinpoint a date, for example, I think the record is clear that Mr. Wade was hired for the position on November 1 of 2021. Does that help you at
No,
all?
it does not.
Okay. Then let's go to the meeting. It sounds like it was just one meeting.
Yes,
And could you tell us where that meeting took place? If you
it was in the
remember?
conference room adjacent to the district attorney's office.
So was it in this the adjoining building?
It was in Lewis Lake building. Yeah.
And District Attorney Willis was there, obviously, right?
Yes. Yes.
And Mr. Wade was there.
The best I recall. Now I could be mistaken about that. It's like anything that far away, but that's my recollection.
Do you have a recollection of anyone else being present?
Yeah, there were some other folks, but I don't remember.
Do you remember? Were you introduced to Mr. Wade by anything other than you already knew him? Was he given a
I
title or
would have
anything?
known it.
So at least as you're there, if I heard you correctly, Miss Willis did all the talking. Mr. Wade did not.
I mean, we exchanged pleasantries, but as far as the basis of the conversation, the reason I was there, Ms. Willis did talk.
And would you be able to give us an estimate of how long this meeting lasted?
Probably
Just rough.
Probably an hour.
And during the meeting, you made it clear, but it was the thanks for the offer, but no thank you.
Oh, yes, I did. As I said, I started off as a prosecutor, and for about 10 or 15 years, I did nothing but criminal. And then, but I've tried to move away from it and do primarily civil now. Mr. Gillen and I have done some white collar cases over in federal court. I've got one over there right now, but it's generally business related, where I have a client that's got a kid or him getting indicted. And the case I have over there now is an alleged fraud case.
Fair to say that based on your career and the work that you've done, you've handled high profile cases, correct?
I have. I've handled some pretty good cases. I sued Syria one time for beheading a client of mine and recovered $83 million. So I guess that's the best high profile, but that was in DC. I tried that up in DC.
And what would be considered complex cases, you've handled those as well, correct?
Yes. I mean, we regularly do mass torts, class actions, business torts, breach of contract, and most of those are complex requiring many
doing a lot of that stuff around
experts. We also do malpractice. I did malpractice defense for about 25 years, but since I returned from the governor's office, I try not to represent an insurance company anymore. And I just tried a malpractice case before Judge Edlin in November. And those are complex cases because of the type of, medical knowledge and that you have to have, and also because of the many experts that you have.
Thank you. Did Miss Willis, and this is the last question, did Miss Willis tell you why she had sought you, why you had been her choice?
No, I hadn't, but I get consulted fairly often on major cases.
Would you believe, based on circumstances in which you were given the offer, that it had to do with the fact that you had handled complex and high profile cases in the past?
It could have been. I know her very well. I tried a case against her. She worked for the JQC, and I represented Judge Robert Crawford, Matt Crawford, and she prosecuted him, and I defended him. She beat me at the trial. I turned it around to the Supreme Court.
So you had some experience.
Oh, I had plenty of experience with her. She's a very qualified young. Well, everybody's young to me, but she's a very qualified young.
After that one occasion, did you have any other contact with her in reference to the position itself, or who she might be considering?
I had some conversations with her or Jeff DeSantis or some of those, but not really an in-depth, about who she should hire or anything like that.
Did the name Nathan Wade come up in those conversations with her? No, right?
No. Nathan was there, I thought. Now I could be mistaken, but I thought Nathan was there when I was. I think Nathan was. I'm positive Nathan was there when I met with him.
Right, and my question was probably poorly worded. But what I was asking is, after the conference and whatever consulting you might have done,
yes,
did Miss Willis or Mr. DeSantis bring up the name Nathan Wade as a special prosecutor?
I don't think so. I don't recall one. I mean, Nathan is a good organizer. Nathan can organize stuff. I've watched him over the years. So I wasn't surprised that he was acting as a special prosecutor.
And Mr. DeSantis, for the record, who was that? Jeff DeSantis?
Jeff DeSantis.
Do you know who he is?
Oh, yes.
Could you tell us who he is for the record?
Jeff works in the DA's office. I knew him when he worked for Thurber Baker.
Know what his role in the DA's office is?
I have no earthly idea.
Is he in media? Does that sound familiar?
He has done media in the past. Jeff has generally been, I like Jeff, and I'm very close to him, but he's generally been on the other side of my campaign.
All right. So we're talking the best of your recollection conference. We don't have the date. I'm asking if you could possibly get it, but the conference you have, Mr. Wade could have been there,
Yes, I'm almost sure he was there.
and Miss Willis, obviously, and Mr. DeSantis was there.
I think Mr. DeSantis
right.
was too.
And as far as whether there was anyone else there, you
I
don't have a
don't
present
know.
recollection.
No.
Okay. Thanks.
Next time I'll take a picture, so I'll have an exact,
Next time, hopefully, you won't have to be here.
well, hopefully not.
Thank you, sir.
All
All
right.
right, Mr. Stockham,
No questions, guys.
Thank you.
Mr. Durham,
No question, John.
Mr. McDougal,
No questions for the governor, Ron?
Mr. Rice,
No questions.
Mr. Gillen.
I've been waiting for this for years.
I couldn't give up the chance getting up here, Governor. Good to see you again.
Good to see you,
We've
Craig.
done some work in the past together, haven't we?
I consider you to be one of my best friends and a crackerjack lawyer.
Well, I will say to you on the record that I can understand why they came to see you because you're the finest lawyer that I've ever worked with.
Thank you. I need to put you in the next day.
Yeah, there we go. We'll get that. But one or two more questions.
Okay.
You and I working together when it's appropriate. We've had no qualms about filing motions to disqualify the DA, have we?
No.
In fact, you and I successfully disqualified the DA out in Cobb County in the Brown case, didn't we?
We did.
So whatever needs to be done
You
should be done.
represent your client.
You got that.
That's
Thank you
right.
so much.
Mr. Cottrell, are you still with us by Zoom?
I am, Your Honor.
All right, any questions?
No, sir.
All right, and Mr. Cromwell from Ms. Latham?
No questions, John.
All right, any redirect, Mr. Abadi?
I got it.
Can this witness be excused?
Your Honor,
Thank
is there a way that we could eventually ask through you for that date if you can get it?
The question is, you want the exact date that the meeting occurred? And I'm wondering if we can, if it's really material, the exact date rather than just its proximity to the November 1st hiring. Is that fair? If he knows whether it was far earlier in the year versus maybe closer, would that obviate the need for the exact date?
Can't get the exact date. We'll take the best we can get.
Okay, let's start there.
All right. Let me
Well,
look
you
around.
may take care of it
It's
for us.
all
just
about
want to
trying to
overlay
get
here.
her
I'm not sure I have
eliminated
this,
from getting the.
Well, let me try this first,
Yeah.
Governor Barnes, before you do a deep dive in the email there. Do you recall what time of year it was when this meeting occurred?
That's what this is all
Okay.
about.
I mean, you know how this is. The cases and the days move together. I had a fellow a few years ago that said I represented him in 1978. And I told him I'd take his word for it.
You wouldn't do that if it was a question of him saying he just hates you.
No, I would not. I will tell you, I believe lawyers should be well paid, Mr. Seta.
All right, so sir, that's
I'll have to look. It didn't come up right.
Okay.
Here.
All right, we'll ask this witness to step down subject to recall. And that might be something the state can present with stipulation as well. All right, thank you, sir. Do we have an update on Mr. Bradley?
His lawyer should be here. He's probably outside downstairs.
And there
The
you
the last
go.
estimation I heard was about 11:30.
Okay, if that's still the case, then Ms. Cross, did you have another witness available?
But having brought it right, it's Mr. John Floyd, not the special prosecutor, John Floyd. It's John Floyd, District Attorney Willis's father.
Okay, and is he heading this way?
Yes.
All right.
Here comes her daddy.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Can you tell the court, are you currently retired?
Yes, I am.
And prior to being retired, can you tell the court a little bit about, did you work in the legal? career
I
before you
was an attorney. I practiced law. I've probably tried 1,000 cases. About 50% of my practice was criminal law. 25% of it was family law, and the rest was whatever walked through the front door could pay for it.
And
1 second. If governor's come back, he might
I
have to.
do. My calendar shows it was October 26, 2021.
All right, and would defense counsel accept it as a stipulation, or is there any follow-up questioning needed on that? Mr. Barnes is still considered under oath on this point. All right, I'm just gonna look for a show of hands or for someone to speak now on Zoom, and hearing none. Thank you, sir. You're excused.
And sir, can you tell the court, are you from Atlanta?
No, I grew up in South Central Los Angeles. I spent most of my legal career, I would say, in Washington, D.C. was kind of the circle, but I've tried cases all over the country, and I tried the longest. I was the first lawyer to try an international criminal court. I was with the International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda. I was in trial there for 4.5 years in Arusha, Tanzania, and Hague in the Netherlands.
Okay. When you weren't there, it sounds like your kind of center of gravity was Washington, D.C.
Correct, but I've tried cases in West Virginia, Maryland, Florida, California.
All
Yes,
over.
yes.
And do you, sir, can you tell the court, do you have any children?
I have one daughter, Fani Willis.
And I want to direct your attention back to 2019, okay?
Yes.
Back in 2019, can you tell the court, did you move here to Atlanta?
I was living in Johannesburg, South Africa. And unfortunately, for some reasons, I could not get an extended visa. When I retired from the practice of law in 2018, I moved to South Africa. And I had to leave South Africa, and I did then come to Atlanta.
Okay, and do you, sir, remember about the time period in 2019 when you moved in with your daughter here in Atlanta?
It would have been the spring or summer of 2019.
And after you moved here, did you get a driver's license to kind of confirm your residency with
Yeah.
Atlanta?
Well, my driver's license for the District of Columbia was going to expire on my birthday, which is in October. And yes, I did get a license here in the state of Georgia.
Good news. I am here for another week's at least.
Okay, Your Honor, if you don't mind, my eyes are very bad, which is one of the reasons I retired. And so I need a magnifying glass. So I'll be constantly, thank you.
Right. Okay.
Yes, I see it was issued on 9/28/2019.
Okay, so before we get there, do you recognize State Exhibit 2?
Yes, this is my driver's license.
And it states Exhibit 2 is there an accurate copy of your physical driver's license?
Absolutely.
This time around, the statement tender was from marked as Exhibit 2 in evidence.
Seeing no other objections, it's submitted. Exhibit 2 is submitted for the record.
Now,
Little shot of
for the record, Your
rye.
Honor, the state is going to supplement State Exhibit 2 with a redacted copy of the license. The current copy is not redacted with the address and things of that
All right,
nature.
and do we need to mark that differently in any way?
Please.
I will mark it as State Exhibit 2A.
Cheers and cheers.
Now, you talked about when your driver's license was issued. Can you tell the court when was that driver's license here, your Georgia driver's license issued?
It was on 9/28/2019.
Okay, so September 28th, 2019. Now, when you moved into District Attorney Willis's home, who lived there?
Well, my daughter lived there. I lived there, and from time to time, my grandchildren would come.
Okay, and did your grandchildren, were they at school coming and going?
Exactly. I think they were in school in various jurisdictions.
And during the time, how long did you live at or with Miss Willis and at her home here in Fulton County?
She was forced to move after she was elected. I don't know if you want me to go through the whole thing, but that, Your Honor, if Your Honor will indulge me. After she was sworn in on January 1 of 2021. And on or about the 3rd of February, at probably 5:30 a.m. in the morning, there were people outside her house cursing and yelling and calling her the B word and the N word. And just, it was bizarre. Okay.
Pause, sir. Mr. Bunny, here's the objection to you.
I would say it's effect on listener. He was present while all of these things were occurring, but I can.
No, that's. And he's saying he was personally present to hear these things.
Yes.
Okay. Overrule.
Okay. And fortunately, the neighbors called the police and disbanded. Disbanded the group, and it was just. It was just. I hadn't seen anything exactly like it before.
Okay. And after that happened, can you tell the court? Did Miss Willis have to move from her home?
Yes, she was forced to leave.
Okay. And can you tell the court after she was forced to leave, shortly after she was sworn in, did you remain at her home in Fulton County?
Yes, I stayed there really until 2022, I guess.
And from what you described, did you fear for her safety?
Absolutely. Not only did I do that, the South Fulton police, they brought somebody, a man with a dog, because there've been so many death threats. And they said they were going to blow up the house. They were going to kill her. They were going to kill me. They were going to kill my grandchildren. On and on and on. It just, it became, and I was concerned for her safety.
And after those concerns came to your attention, and after what you heard and saw that day, you remained at the house?
Yes.
And can you tell the court, with what you just described, why did you remain living at the district attorney's home here in Fulton County?
I don't know it's relevant.
Mr. Bunny.
I believe it's relevant based on a lot of the questions that were asked yesterday of Ms. Willis as to about the security threat and the fact that it was implied that those threats were not necessarily real in the sense that Mr. Floyd remained in the home. There were many questions about the fact that he remained and her children could still come and go to the house. I think it's relevant based to the testimony that was elicited from defense counsels yesterday.
Overruled.
Well, these South Fulton police, first they put a car in front of the house that was there permanently, a police car. That was thing one. Thing two, they brought a person with a dog, sometimes more than once a day, twice a day, and they would circle the house to look for bombs. I knew that was a house that my daughter had worked for. It was a brand new house. She's the only one who would ever live there. It's a 4-bedroom, brand new house. And somebody needed to protect the house. And I stayed there to basically take care of the house, to take care of the yard, to take care of that. Also, somebody sprayed, again, the B word and the N word on the house. And I don't think my daughter even knew that. I cleaned it off and called the police. And
South
Fulton police, they have, I'm sure, all the records of all the things that happened. And all of the neighbors, I notified all the neighbors to look out and to watch out. And it was so crazy. It was just so crazy. We'd have people show up and park car. There was a guy parked for probably 8 hours out in front of the house. It was just, and we called the police and,
Now, at the time that you lived there with Ms. Willis, and I guess even when you remained, so during the time period of 2019 to the end of 2020, are you aware if Ms. Willis was dating someone?
Yeah, she did. She had a boyfriend when I first got there.
And did you meet her boyfriend?
Yeah, I met him often.
Okay, and did you know him by any specific nickname?
Yeah, Deuce.
Okay.
Okay.
Can you tell the court while
that's
you were living
bad.
there, how often would you see him?
Sometimes every day, sometimes, every other day. He was a disc jockey or something, and he had all this paraphernalia that I'd have to move out. There was a thing with the keyboard, things that play music and so forth and so on. So
Now, when you moved in 2019 and then throughout the years in year 2020, 2021, had you ever met someone named Nathan Wade?
I did not meet Nathan Wade until 2023, about a year ago, when a reporter by the name of Issakoff interviewed me. That was the first time I met him.
You said that was in 2023?
2023, right?
She wouldn't even tell him daddy.
And I know you said you hadn't met him until 2023, but when you were living at Ms. Willis's house in Fulton County, did you ever meet Mr. Wade in the year 2019?
Absolutely not.
How about in the year 2020?
Absolutely not.
Did you ever see Mr. Wade at Ms. Willis's Fulton County house in the year 2021?
Never.
And is it your testimony that the only time or the first time that you met Mr. Wade was in 2023?
Let me say something. Mr. Wade said that he remembers seeing me, and I do remember some banter. I'm a member of Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity, and there's kind of this thing that goes on between fraternities, and Mr. Wade is a member of Alpha Phi Alpha. And I do remember there was some kind of banter when my daughter was sworn in to be district attorney between me and a couple of guys, and he said he remembers me. I don't remember him.
And prior to that experience that you're talking about, as well as, I guess, your official meeting in 2023, had you ever even heard his name?
No, never.
I don't think I have any further questions, Your Honor.
There you go. Good questions.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Fine. How are you, counsel?
Good, thank you. Just got a couple questions. On Monday, we heard you were in California. Do you have a place in California?
What's so funny?
People always ask me about where do I live. I guess I live right here, sitting in the seat right now. But yes, the answer is I have a place in Los Angeles.
Okay, you do. All right. So do you share time or split time between Los Angeles and Georgia?
Actually, I'm working on a documentary film, and I'm supposed to be being filmed, not for this trial, but I'm supposed to be being filmed right now. It was planned, and we had to stop it because they asked me to come here. But the answer is I'm working on a documentary, and I'll be in California until I finish the documentary, if we don't have another actor strike and we don't have another writer strike.
So do you own property in
Like
California?
No, I don't. I live with a friend of mine.
Live with a friend of
I
yours.
like
Okay. And when did you first move? Well, let me qualify with the
Just-
dates. Did you spend any time in 2019 in California?
No, and the reason I didn't is that when I first came here, the answer is no, I did not. What happened was COVID. Once COVID hit, I was just paralyzed. I couldn't go anyplace. I couldn't go anything. I mean, I'm a theater buff. I used to go to theater at least once a week. But when COVID hit, I just couldn't. I couldn't go to the dentist, which I need to do. Well, it was just a thing. So I was just stuck. I was just stuck there.
I may be wrong, but I believe COVID hit in 2020. So I was
Guy's
asking about
on fire.
2019.
I
In
like it.
2019, did you spend any time in California?
Before COVID was even here in the United States, remember I lived in South Africa and I've traveled the world. I knew COVID was coming before. I knew COVID was around before. They may have announced it in 20, but in fact, I knew about it and I knew what was happening in 19.
Okay, so let's walk through 2019 then. You said you moved here in September. So
No, I didn't say that. I moved here probably prior to September. In September is when I got the driver's license. I probably moved in the springtime.
I'm sorry, you did. You said spring summer. I see that in my notes. So spring summer 2019 is when you moved here. So up until spring summer 2019, where did you live?
I lived in Johannesburg. Well, I lived in Washington, D.C., 2018. I had planned to retire for the rest of my life in South Africa. I had worked for Nelson Mandela and the Free Mandela and get that. And someone I'd gone to law school, he had located there after Mandela was freed from prison and became president. I was going to live there for the rest of my life, but unfortunately, because of political reasons, I could not stay in South Africa, and I was forced, in a sense, to come back to the United States.
So let's just focus in on the period
Yeah,
from,
they don't
let's see,
really
let's just start with
like,
October 2019. Okay,
really
we'll call that the relevant period.
really
October
like
2019
Americans
until the end of
where he was
2019. Were you in Georgia every single day of that year?
Absolutely.
So now let's move to 2020. Okay. And every single day, before I move on, every single day in 2019, you slept at your daughter's house, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So let's start in 2020. All right. So 2020, the entire year, did you travel anywhere?
No,
You didn't travel at all that year.
no.
So-
And I didn't go to the movies, which upset me also.
So that entire year, 2020, you remained here in Georgia.
Right.
In 2021, did you do any traveling?
No.
So when did you move back, or when did you start this documentary film in Los Angeles?
What I had been doing to occupy my time as I was writing my own memoir. As I delved into my family background, I discovered something, and that's what got me to working on the documentary. So I want you to understand what was going on in my life. I have a movie script called Bad Blood. I have a movie script we're trying to sell. So I tried to sell that, and I just happened to mention something that happened during the civil rights movement. SNCC, it's called the SNCC 5. The legendary Peter Fitzsimmons was interested, and so with Peter Fitzsimmons and Leah Smith, we're now doing the documentary. So
I don't want to interrupt you, but what I was asking was when you moved to Los Angeles, not what you moved there for.
You keep saying moved. I haven't moved to Los Angeles. I spent more time in California, in Oakland, if you really want to just be, because Peter is basically San Francisco based. So we're working on the documentary.
Okay.
I was in Los Angeles because I was going to the Pan-African Film Festival. And that's why we were there. And the way Hollywood works is, when you make connections, and film festivals are a place to try to sell ideas and meet people and organize things.
You still own property in Washington, D.C., correct?
No, I don't.
You don't own property at 1467 Roxana Road Northwest?
That's where I used to live.
That's where you used to live.
Right.
You own that property?
Yes.
Okay. And you owned that property when you moved here in 2019?
Yes.
And you owned it in 2020, correct?
Well, now you talk about a very complicated issue. I left the property. There was a dispute between me, and I had gotten a reverse mortgage company, and there was a dispute between me and that, and I just I walked away from it.
Okay. You walked away from it with
man. Hope you are doing
almost $300,000.
Yeah, what is the relevance of that?
Where he lived and registered to vote. That's what they brought in. So that's
Why is the money he got from the sale relevant at all?
it's the only proof I have of that he owned that address. So I can move on now. Okay. When did you sell that property?
I didn't. The reverse mortgage company took it.
Oh, okay. So in 2019, when you got your driver's license here,
Yes.
the next day you registered to vote, correct?
I think it may have been the same day, but maybe it was the next day. I don't remember.
But you didn't own property here in Georgia that day?
No, I was living with my daughter.
You said that you met Mr. Wade, that you remember you met in 2023, right? That was the first time you
Correct.
remember. Okay. And
Just
I
so
wasn't
you
really
guys
clear. You
know,
said
don't
something
do
about meeting
those
him. Was it
reverse
with Mr.
mortgages.
Isikoff or did Mr. Isikoff tell you?
No, I was being interviewed by Mr. Isikoff.
Okay.
And he walked in, and I met him. That was the first time. He walked into the office, and
Where were you being interviewed?
at the district attorney's office.
And Mr. Wade walked into that interview?
Yes.
And so Ms. Willis had not told you about Mr. Wade prior to that.
Absolutely not.
So she didn't tell you anything about their relationship before you met him that day.
No.
But Mr. Wade remembers meeting you in 2020?
He said that at my daughter's swearing in. I do remember that we having some banner about fraternities, but other than that,
Oh, at your daughter swearing in. Okay.
right.
That's all I have. Just one moment.
Chizzy,
thank you.
have you seen Arisrael lately? I think she's just been really busy, man.
Morning, sir.
Good morning. How are you, counsel?
I'm fine. I'll try to ask you some specific questions if we could, okay?
And I'll give specific answers if I can.
Perfect.
Okay.
The driver's license address, I'm not going to publish. That is state's exhibit number 2. But is the address on that driver's license the home that you're referring to as your daughter's in South Fulton?
Absolutely.
It was unclear to me, maybe no one else, it's unclear to me, when did you stop living at what I would call your daughter's home in South Fulton?
Things got so bad and threats got so many, even against me, that the house became basically uninhabitable. I got tired of sleeping in one room one day and one that. I would say December of 2022, something like that.
December of 2022.
Right. That's about right. Yeah.
Now, let me change and go back for another date. You had indicated, and I didn't hear it. When was your daughter, Miss Willis, when was she sworn in as district attorney?
On January 1, 2021.
Okay. And did you indicate that there was an incident, and I know you've described it. Was that incident on February the 3rd, 2021?
That's my best recollection.
Okay. So my question then is, after February 3rd of 2021, how much longer did Miss Willis stay at the house before she moved somewhere else?
Very short period of time, and I cannot be precise, but I would bet all the money I ever made, it wasn't more than a month and a half, if that long.
Okay, so we're talking about, best of your recollection, end of February into the beginning of March, give or take, of 2021, when Miss Willis would have moved to a different location.
Exactly.
Okay. And did Miss Willis return to the house, that is the house that you were in, at any point in time that you can remember?
From time to time, she and her security might show up for her to pick something up or take something or something, but she always would come with her security.
Okay. My question was poorly worded, and I apologize. Did she come back permanently to her house?
Oh, absolutely not.
Okay.
Absolutely not.
So as far as you're
around
aware,
14.
once Miss Willis left the house, her house, South Fulton house, so the record's clear, in either late February or into March of 2021, best of your recollection, she's not returned to that home to live.
No, it became uninhabitable. It just,
That's okay.
I would have to walk around that house looking out of every window. I made a habit of having to walk around the whole house. I got lights so that if somebody would come at night in the back, so that those kinds of reflecting lights, I had those put up.
I don't again,
yeah,
interrupt.
okay.
All I was interested in is whether she had ever returned.
No, the answer is no.
Okay. Now, when Miss Willis, when your daughter left the home, time period, end of February, beginning of March, give or take 2021, do you know where she moved to?
No, and I didn't want to know. I intentionally did not want to know because I was not, if somebody stuck a gun to my head and I could tell them, I wasn't going to tell them anyway, or I'd have made up something, but I didn't want to know.
Okay. So would it be fair to say that if you didn't want to know, you never visited her at the place that she moved to?
Oh, I never did.
Never
did.
Do you know how long she stayed at the first place that she went to after she left her house before she moved to a second place?
What I know, and this is hearsay, counsel, is that my daughter has had to move something like 4 times.
But do you know any potential?
No, I don't know any place. I was taken one time for Christmas Day. I've only seen my daughter, and this is very hard for me to say, but during the period my daughter left, I've only seen my daughter 13 times because I can't, and we've never seen each other more than.
Yeah, I'm gonna fast forward through this guy's testimony because it doesn't seem to be a whole relevant. He's already said that he hasn't met Mr. Wade, so he's a fiery old guy. I like this guy. He's pretty damn cool. But yeah, man, don't go after people like this. It's just crappy stuff. If you're going on the attack, like, don't do that. That's all I got to say. Just stay away from that kind of crap. Let's see. We'll get to this guy here. He was in the first day, and we'll just get caught up with him. I'll just fast forward a little bit until we get him on the stand.
I do not recall.
This guy, right? Yeah.
I didn't call you.
No, it was the third party.
You called me after you read an article in, I don't even know where it was. I found one in the Washington Examiner. I found objection. Can we approach that?
Okay.
Well, yeah, because I mean, personally, you shouldn't be going after,
this witness, it appears from the
district attorneys, assistant district attorneys. You shouldn't be going after these people. That's I don't like that. If you don't like somebody, then
Second is any information that he might have from personal knowledge. The
make it
third
known
category, which I
on
believe is the
YouTube
substance
or
of what Ms.
something
Merchant
like
wants to
that.
go
But you
into
go
is
after
information
somebody
not derived
physically,
from
yeah, that's not cool.
personal observation,
That's
not derived from communication with
I would
But
not condone
secondhand,
that
third-hand
whatsoever.
speculative things. Ms. Merchant's
Nothing
questions
wrong
don't
with not liking
differentiate
somebody,
those-
but
those categories of
doing
information.
these kinds of
And I'm
things.
concerned about the questions being proposed without that qualification, so that Mr. Riley doesn't know when to invoke a privilege. I think the testimony yesterday was he didn't have any personal knowledge of
Well,
any
then
of this.
shut up.
That was my understanding of the testimony. I believe that was Mr. Brownlee's sworn testimony yesterday. And my
I'm gonna go
concern
grab
is that
another
the
beverage.
thoughts
I'll
of
be right back.
the unsourced hearsay is where we're going to get to really fast.
Sure. And I think that's a fair point. I think she's following the script that she already provided you. So we have more than enough notice of when that might be coming. I think the second she asks a question that you think might weigh into that, make the objection and we can rephrase if necessary. All right, Ms. Merchant, you can re-ask that last question.
Read an article that was on September 11th discussing how much you and Mr. Wade were correct?
That is correct.
And you called me that same day and left me a voicemail on my cell phone asking me to call you back.
I do not recall that, but I do not recall that.
You don't recall that?
I do not.
So it's possible that happened.
I do not recall calling you after the article came out. I was shown the article, but I do not recall calling you after the article.
Can you tell us your phone number?
It's 334-717.
Wait, hold up. Why is that relevant, Ms. Merchant?
Because I need to establish that his phone number is the one that all of the texts that he had with me.
Can you just ask him if he has texted you at some point? We can stipulate that as a matter of record. We don't need that on the record.
Okay, you don't have to put it in the record. How about this? Can I show him a copy of his what he saved in my
Sure.
phone? Okay, I'll just do that. Yeah, approach that.
You may.
Take a look at that and just verify if that's your number and your cell phone.
That is my number and my cell phone.
Okay, and is that also your email address?
That is my email
I've
address.
done this already. So the reason I'm fast forwarding is I want to get caught up to where it's a
So
little more
after-
current.
Whether or not
Yeah,
you left a
I've
message on my
already seen
voicemail. The next
a lot
day,
of this
we were all in
already.
court for Judge Harris on September 12th, 2023. And do you recall that?
I do recall
I can skip
being
over
in Judge Harris. Yes, I do.
portions of it.
And your attorney, BC Chopra, was there, and I was there, and another attorney, Burke Cohen, were there, correct?
Those people were there at the time. BC was not my attorney. I didn't realize I needed an attorney until I was subpoenaed.
But BC Chopra was there. I'm going to check
I need an attorney.
Ms. Cross, as I see this line of testimony, much of it is I'm taking in response to the original, how we started off this whole hearing, that Ms. Merchant had no basis whatsoever to bring this and she should be sanctioned. And I think she's laying that out. Okay. All right, Ms. Merchant.
I recall it was in a conference room in the front. I don't know I know you were handling a case in Judge Harris. I think I was speaking to Bert about a case, and BC was there to speak to Bert about a case. Yes, I think I do recall that happening, but I can't recall who else was there. It was a regular court date.
That conference room, that's sort of in Cobb County, there's a conference room in front of it.
Correct.
And it's not a public room, it's sort of like a jury room.
Correct.
And it was the four of us in that room talking.
I don't recall if anybody else was there. I will say that I do remember at some point it was myself, you, BC, and Bert there, but people were coming in and out of the courtroom, so I cannot sit here and accurately say that somebody else wasn't there at the time.
We talked, I mean, and people could have come and gone, but essentially we talked for about half an
No, it wasn't an hour.
hour. And that's the only time we spoke in person about anything related to this matter, correct?
Correct.
And based on that phone conversation, I told you I had been submitting open records requests and I was going to continue to submit open records requests, correct?
Based off what phone conversation?
Based upon our conversation in court.
Oh, okay. Correct. You said that you were doing some open records requests, correct?
And based on our conversation, I told you I was going to do some additional open records requests.
Which open records request are you talking about?
Just any, just asking if we talked about
As
that I was going to do
as
it follow
you
up with Fulton
should.
County. I can specify that.
Okay. Because I recall open records requests being made for other things, and so I don't know which one that you're referring to.
At that time, we talked about getting, I guess it's called a county card and getting access cards and things like that for coming in and out of Fulton County for you, Mr. Wade.
Okay. And
all of the access that you all have.
yes. And you asked me, did I have an access card?
And you are the one that told me that you and Mr. Wade, or that Mr. Wade at least had an access card.
I told you that the three of us had an access card because we had a contract with the DA's office or the county. I told you what those contracts were and that we had an access card that will allow us to pick up the documents, go into a specific office, and leave out.
So we talked about that badge access card and asking for that. I was going to ask for that, right?
Correct.
And then a couple days later, I sent you a text. And then when I say a couple days, so that was on September 12th when we had that conversation.
Do you mind if I pull out my phone?
On September 14th,
Please do.
at 6:38 p.m.
This way he can verify what he's saying. I mean, these are all lawyers here. No different than Fani, no different than all the attorneys on both sides.
And what day was this?
They all work together. So
September 14th, correct.
And I sent you a screenshot of a Fulton County open records request I did.
Yes, and I said, wow.
like each other. But
And then
they all do have to work together.
we continued to text.
Wait. And then you sent another text about a badge, and I did not respond. You sent another text about an entrance card. I did not respond. You sent another text about some other badges and with a circle around it, and I did not respond.
Okay.
That's right, thank you.
All right. Mr. Bradley, if you could just respond to the question asked and only the question asked.
That was
Thank you,
actually, I have an additional.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't want to do that.
Ms. Merchant provided some text messages that she let us know.
He doesn't want to burn that
The text
bridge.
messages are inconsistent.
Let's put it this way: you got the
Bradley's,
EA on your side.
Exchange as he apparently is reading it
You're
off of
good.
his phone. So if I could ask Ms.
You're
Merchant,
hot.
is this it is true, accurate, and complete? And perhaps we can see what's on Mr. Bradley's phone. But more importantly, I am going to object and understand the court's legal way about Ms. Merchant
Sure.
being able to establish contact based on
Mhm.
previous statements made. But I'm concerned about going into the content of the statements without putting things in the buckets that I
Sure. And so am I, Ms. Merchant. I'm not seeing so much the relevance of it back and forth. I'm allowing you to establish, the contact that was made and in line with the outline you provided me. And I think we're on track with that. Were you planning to tender these text messages?
I'm discussing them with him. Now, if yesterday he said we didn't talk text about this case, so if that was his testimony again today, then yes, I will at least show them to him to request recollection or to impeach him. But Judge, their first part of their argument is foundation. Is what I'm assuming. They're saying all of these. They're not all relevant. I can give you all of my texts, but they're not all relevant. And so they asked for screenshots, and so I took screenshots. If there's a way to submit my entire text history with Mr. Bradley, then that's fine. If they want us to read every single text, that's fine. I just don't want to be in a position where people are saying that I'm not.
Well, I also want to avoid the situation where you as the counsel of record are having to lay the foundation and do that sort of thing yourself. So I don't know how much further we can go with this before we get into that. So
Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure what their objection is. So I asked him about one question and he read out
sure.
several.
Why don't we just go with your next question and we'll see where we go from there.
All right, let's see.
But so, and
Bradley, why don't you wait for it to ask a question?
I understand that, Judge, and I'm not
Well,
trying to
apparently you
be
don't, sir. Wait for it to ask a question and you'll have a chance.
Oh, he didn't like that.
So I think what the last thing I asked you was about September 14th. So those texts that you're talking about, those refer to the issue that we're here today about, though.
some text did, yes.
Yes, okay. And then you called me again on September 15th, 2023, and we spoke on the phone.
I do not recall that.
Well, I texted you and said I needed to call you back, and then I later called you back.
I'm not sure. I do not recall.
You don't recall that? Okay. And do you recall the following Monday?
Your Honor, I appreciate the question as it is on the form. And if the question is what she's going to read, I object to it even being asked out loud
Yeah.
without knowing the
And this-
relevance of it.
Here's
If
the
the
thing.
witness is going to answer his source of
The-
information, and I feel like it is so
judge-
inflammatory as to his.
All right. Not by her request, but Miss this lady right here, she already told the other attorneys all the questions that she was going to ask, in what context she was going to ask them. And that's a little abnormal. And that's what the judge is about to go into. He goes, hey, you gave them all the questions. You guys had a chance to formulate answers. You knew the questions that were going to be asked, and now you're trying to not answer them. I mean, these are, most of them are just simple yes or no questions that they're being asked, and they don't have to opine on it. All they have to do is say yes or no. Something's a little shady whenever they have to give an explanation for it. Like, ask the question, answer the question, and
Say out loud.
let them get it
without knowing
on
where
rebuttal.
Mr. Bradley falls on that, and I do have an objection to the question.
Okay. All right.
With all due respect, if I might just a moment. Why is it that we're not allowed to ask questions? And then when the question is asked, there's an objection made either by the state or the lawyers for this particular witness. It appears that what the state would like to do is force us to tell you in advance every question you're going to ask before there's an objection raised. And I don't understand why they get to do that when we are obviously in the same position to say to them, tell us every question you're going to ask. Of course, I realize it's a privilege, but that can be the questions asked, state objects, chauffeur objects, and the court rules, but not being able to put it on the record because it's inflammatory or it's somehow prejudicial. I don't think that I'm just suggesting.
Sure. So, Mr. State, I'd agree with you in the general sense of things, but in this situation, Ms. Merchant offered to provide essentially her list of questions in advance, giving us a preview of what she's going to say. And that puts us in kind of a different posture in that respect, where we can actually have some sense of what's going to come out. But Ms. Merchant, I think knowing what your next question may be, since usually we don't have that opportunity, does it presuppose some knowledge on his part that we have yet to establish is inside or outside of privilege?
Well, the first thing, Judge, is I gave these questions so that we wouldn't be in a situation
Sure.
where we were objecting and having 4 different lawyers talk about privilege, confidentiality, every single question. So I was hoping that we would ferret that out ahead of time. So this is the first that I've heard that objection to question 18. I did give the state copies of them as well, trying to be completely transparent. I also, I have to establish that his information, there have been statements in this court that I lied, multiple statements yesterday. I can't even tell you how many times that was said under oath yesterday, and that I did not get this information. And so I have a right to.
Which I've already said we can do and we can go over, but and we've already started doing that. But the next question, as you plan to ask it, may presuppose again some information that he has that we need to determine whether it's inside or outside privilege. Is that right?
No, well, I don't believe so. No, I mean, if we're going to talk about the privilege, I wanted to talk about it beforehand, which is why I gave all of these. I didn't know the state had objections on these questions to privilege. If we're going to talk about the privilege, I'm happy to ask him the substance of the question, but that is what I'm getting objections for. So I'm trying carefully to craft something to avoid that. But I'm happy to just ask outright the question.
Right. I don't see a way around that, Ms. Cross.
I understand, Your Honor. I'm going to do what every time you do. The problem in the context that Ms. Merchant is posing the questions is, this was our communication, this is what I asked you, this is what you told me, and here are these texts that are supporting it. I understand the court's ruling that based on how things have gone, if Ms. Merchant feels like he needs to establish there was contact and communication, then I don't have an objection to that. However,
Wait, what are
number
they
one,
trying to hide?
the text message
Looks
that
like you're hiding
exchanged
shit.
that Ms. Merchant gave me is apparently not complete. And so I don't know, without making her a witness, how the state can, we're entitled to, if she's going to refer to text messages, we're entitled to an accurate representation of what those are. Mr. Bradley's looking at his phone, and that's what he's got. He is under no
Try
obligation.
not to
Ms. Merchant
laugh.
provided those to us, and I appreciate it. But I can't tell as I'm sitting here, even if to an incomplete or an inaccurate recitation, if what she gave me isn't complete.
So a couple things come to mind. One would be that anything the witness is referring to on the stand, counsel at any point has the right to inspect. And so if that's what you're asking for, Ms. Cross, then I think you have a right to do that if you decided to do that. The other is as I've seen it so far, I don't think these texts are coming in as substantive evidence, but more for impeachment, in which case extrinsic evidence would never be coming in to prove them up. And he either takes her answer or he doesn't. And that's how it works. So I don't see the foundation issue or the completeness issue really playing into it as it comes to impeachment.
And so they asked me for the relevance or interest. I took them. He doesn't have an iPhone. I can't download the entire text message history. I told them they could go through my phone. I'm hiding something.
All right, Ms. Merchant. I think at this point, again, I don't see anything extravagant about the next question on his face. I think we need to deal with it as it goes. So you proceed.
Where I could get an affidavit from about the affair, and you responded no because you didn't think anybody would freely burn that bridge. Isn't that true?
If you say so. I mean, I don't.
You have your text if you need to refresh your memory.
Yeah, you've got it right there. You already looked at it once. Go ahead and look at it again.
September 18th at 3:11 p.m. if you need to.
Can you repeat the question?
The question is, did I text you asking you if you knew who I could get an affidavit from about the affair? And you responded
And
no.
make sure
No one would
you
freely
guys
burn
are
that bridge.
hitting that like button.
Yes, I do see that.
If you're not subbed, be like Phoenix Fire.
Then I asked you if Chris
Sub,
Campbell knew,
become
correct?
a new member even. Really helps keep the lights on over here. Thank you guys. Y'all are awesome.
No, you asked me if under oath he would testify.
I'm going to object to the source of the witness's information about that, whether that's firsthand information or not. And Mr. Campbell, of course, has a privilege too.
Well, since Mr. Campbell hadn't even been brought in to this proceeding at all, I'm also wondering about just the relevance of asking questions about Mr. Campbell.
I'm just, it's been objected that I'm not asking about all the texts and I'm selectively asking, so I'm trying to go through all of them. I would much rather just ask the very relevant ones.
Well, I have an objection to her asking. I can't tell
Irrelevant.
if the statements or the testimony provided is consistent or inconsistent without a complete set of this text
You're
exchange.
getting your
And it's not clear in the
Ms.
text
Krause
exchange
hates this because she's
what
getting
the
her ass
source of
handed to her.
Mr. Bradley's information that he's providing is. And so that is, I'm
Sure.
struggling, and I know everybody else.
And again, I think you're focusing more on the merits than the impeachment value, right? If the sole purpose this is coming in is under those grounds, then you being able to match them up word for word, I don't see that as being a necessary prerequisite.
There you
But
go.
as it relates to Mr. Campbell, he's not a witness yet.
Exactly,
He hasn't come in.
because you
He's
guys
come up
keep
really
calling
all
her a
other than
liar.
passing and maybe the firm. So why
Oh,
don't we
you're
skip
out
ahead to
of
the next questions, and
context
you can always come
for
back to that if somehow he is
other
made an issue in this
contribution.
case.
That's great, Judge. I needed some clarity because the state is objecting that it's not full and accurate. I'm keeping things out, and then they're objecting that I'm putting too much in. So I'm just trying to avoid every question having an objection, Judge. So on January 5th, 2024, we had a text exchange where we talked about that I had discovered that Nathan took Fani on a cruise and a trip and paid for it with a business card. You told me you were on a plane home from Dubai, but you would call me as soon as you got home. Do you remember that?
It's amazing he can afford to go to Dubai. Damn.
So what I have is a text message from you saying, "Oh my God, Nathan took Fani on a trip to Napa and paid for it with his firm."
Okay, continue reading.
And you said, "Is he that dumb?"
Mhm.
And I said, "Wow, I'm on a plane from Dubai, land at 3. We'll call you as soon as I land."
So that is accurate. That's what you told me.
That I will call you as soon as I land, and wow.
Yes.
Yes, that is accurate.
And then you told me that you weren't surprised because they took many trips to Florida, Texas, and California.
Right? Well,
Okay, so I don't have that, but and I can
that's because he
show my
deleted it.
phone, but I don't have that in my phone.
So the question is just, do you recall?
I do not recall.
Communicating that to
I do not recall.
All right.
You recall telling me that it was when she had to move her daughter, that trip to California.
I do not recall that.
And Judge, may I approach the witness?
You may.
Thank you. In the pack I gave you.
Oh, I see it.
Yeah, the parts that he
Little fat
deleted
piece out
out
of rest
of
of
his phone, she's got record of it, of what he sent.
Yes, I see this.
Okay. Does that look like, does it refresh your memory?
It does not. I mean, I see what's on the text chain, but
Mhm.
you said this happened January 5th.
I can tell you exactly when it happened. Because there's no date and timestamp on that. Let's see.
Oh, Chicky, get your shit together. Make sure you have date and timestamps whenever you're pulling this kind of crap up.
It was, let's see, it was. I believe it was January 5th, but just give me one.
Judge,
second.
I just want to, on behalf of Mr. Wade, just to review the section again. We still don't.
To which question?
To the current question, we still don't know the source of this information, whether it was privileged or how he obtained any of this.
It was on
I'm
your
wondering
damn
now if there's a
phone.
timeliness issue on your objection, since he already, well, he said he doesn't recall. So there's,
He just gave the date. He did.
sure. Well, his question, or his answer was he doesn't recall, and his memory has not been refreshed. So I think it's time for the next question.
May I approach the witness, Judge?
Okay.
Can I see what you're
Okay.
approaching the witness with, please?
Oh, here, look.
So is this
It's
the
my
complete
phone.
text chain?
Yeah, it's a complete text.
Yeah.
While they're looking at that, can I just ask you, did you delete any text messages?
I have several messages in the phone with you. I've never deleted. I mean, there are messages about family and my health and
Mhm.
things like that. You asked me to be on some panel.
Yes.
And so I think it's complete, but
Well, no, my question was, did you delete?
no,
any
I
text?
haven't deleted anything.
Okay.
I have not.
Yeah.
And I offered them to look through my phone earlier. They are welcome to.
You never provided it to us.
Said you need.
Your physical
Got
phone,
it.
you never provided it.
It's the only phone I have, Judge.
I understand, and I don't want to keep popping that, but my concern, of course, is that these exchanges are just two lawyers gossiping about information. And I'm concerned about it coming into the record in this way. I understand impeachment is a thing, but if we could do it in a way that the substance of
Because
this,
apparently he knew
gossip
about this shit.
is
You
not,
definitely don't want to get this up. Yeah, it is.
that
guys.
part is not impeaching, the contact is impeaching. So
I don't think we've gotten to that point quite yet, Ms. Cross, but you can renew your objection if you think we have. So right now, the sole thing that Ms. Merchant is trying to do is hand him an object to refresh his recollection again. So we'll see where we get with that.
And I don't have any way to download it. He doesn't have an iPhone, so I don't know.
Mr. Zeta.
The court is a trier of fact. You're going to be able to determine whether something that has come in, if you choose to, is hearsay, whether it's admissible, whether it's relevant, whether it's impeachment. You're in a position that if it all comes in, but you reserve the right, or all parties reserve the right to object we can deal with it. This is not a jury. We don't have to worry about the jury hearing something that it will no longer consider. All we're doing now, with all due respect, and I understand there's a process. The state doesn't want something to be heard.
I object to that.
They've repeatedly attempted to stop questioning. Your Honor can hear it all and then decide what is and is not relevant and admissible. We don't have to go through every single one of these. The only time you have to go through this is if it is in fact a communication and it's a privileged communication, and an argument has to be made at that point as to whether or not it should be elicited or it is subject to being stated in open court. Otherwise, all of this can come to the court and then decide how it wants to treat. That's
All right. I appreciate that, Mr. Sadon. I think it's certainly accurate that we could have an approach where if it's a close toss-up on an evidentiary question, we can have it all come in and sort it out later on the record. I don't think we've quite reached the point where I need to do that. I think we still have time to get into these, and it'd be my preference to keep the record as clean as possible and without questionable evidentiary issues. But we may get to that point. So
shots.
The question from Ms. Merchant was to approach the witness and with an object to see if that would refresh his recollection to the last question asked.
Yes.
Because he deleted it.
Now, I'm sorry, the state scrolled through it, so
Why did he delete
not right
it?
there again.
Oh shit. Would you want to have that on record?
No, I mean like it was on the screen.
Yeah. They fucked with her phone. Yeah, they did this on purpose. She had it up. There it goes.
Now I can't find it. I'm going to move on to the next question that I actually can't find it, and then I'll find that and come back to it. I sent you a statement and said, upon information and belief, Willis and Wade met while both were serving as a magistrate judge and began a romantic relationship at that time. And you corrected.
Yeah, never hand these assholes your phone. Don't do that shit. Because all they did is they closed it out and they deleted it if they got
And
it.
say, no, it was in municipal court. Is that correct?
I think that's pretty accurate.
And is that based on your personal knowledge?
But what question was it, municipal court or when they first met, or?
My question was, is this accurate? Upon information and belief, Willis and Wade met while both were serving as magistrate judges and began a romantic relationship at that time. And you wrote, no, that it was municipal court.
Okay.
So I answered.
Mr. Chopra has risen.
Sorry, Your Honor, I do have one purpose here, and that purpose has now been met. Any information that Mr. Bradley may possess would in fact have come from his representation of Mr. Wade. This falls within the purview of his divorce proceedings, which, as we testified earlier, commenced in December of 2018.
Yeah,
There is no
she
pierce or
told
shield
him
associated
about it.
with
It doesn't
so we would
matter.
say that under Rule 1.6, we should not be compelled to give any further
She
information.
sent him-
Okay. And as we discussed about before the
He sent her
break,
a
Mr. Chopra,
message.
I ruled earlier this morning that this witness is going to be directed to respond to any question to the extent it falls outside of attorney-client privilege and only attorney-client privilege, meaning 1.6 is not going to bar his testimony in this case. What would be your response then?
Then Mr. Bradley would have to consistently assess on his own, unless I'm jumping up and objecting for him, whether or not this came within his knowledge based on his representation. And I can say, based on the phrasing of the question from Ms. Merchant,
You
it
really
would
don't
in
want to
fact
get it up.
come within information obtained from his partner client at the time associated with the activity in question.
All right, Mr. Evans, same issue.
I just want to reiterate that it's a compound question anyways, that so it needs to be separated out, but it's still based, we just renew the objection that it's still based on gossip, either gossip or privileged communication. He doesn't ever cite the source of where any of this information is coming from, so I just want to renew that objection.
Okay.
Judge,
Merchant.
as far as privilege, any privilege objection, it's been waived, particularly for this issue because Mr. Wade
Need to testify on the subject.
testified on this subject.
Well, he didn't testify as a communication with his attorney about any subject. He testified factually about what trips he took and events that occurred. He didn't testify, to my recollection, about any communication with his attorney.
But he testified about the subject matter of the question that was just asked, which was when apparently they first met.
Furthermore, Judge, my client wasn't privy to that testimony. We have been under subpoena and therefore under the rule, so we do not know what was or was not
Sure.
testified to. Everything he
Exactly.
says would be a violation of that privilege unless we know
No.
specifically what all has been waived.
Sure, unless I make a finding that there was an express waiver on behalf of the client.
For
Right?
question.
Okay.
And,
Sure, got it.
So
All
for
right.
this question, particularly, Judge, we would ask that you find that there has been a waiver of the attorney-client privilege because Mr. Wade testified to something directly different than what this witness, we believe, has
Okay,
knowledge
Ms.
of.
Cross.
Yeah, so Mr. Wade testified as to when they met. That is not the entire substance of the text message that Ms.
And began a romantic relationship.
He did not testify that they
Okay.
were serving as magistrate judges when they began a romantic relationship.
All
He
right.
testified differently.
Okay, Ms. Merchant, I think you're going to need to establish whether this witness ever gained that knowledge independently or during the course of a attorney-client relationship.
Did you have any,
Doesn't matter.
thinking back to the source
because-
of your knowledge, and
Because if he communicated it to her, then he already waived that communication or that privileged communication.
let me just, before I do that, let me remind you what is covered by attorney-client privilege. It's communications that relate to matters in which legal advice is sought and communications that have been maintained in confidence and no exceptions to the privilege. So it's communications that are in furtherance of legal advice. Your knowledge that their affair began, that their romantic relationship, I'm sorry, began while they were both serving as municipal court judges. Is that from your personal information, your personal knowledge, or is that from
I'm going to overrule that objection, Mr. Chopra. He can answer that question.
State that question again.
your knowledge,
Is any knowledge, if any,
if any knowledge, of Nathan Wade and Fani Willis's relationship, romantic relationship beginning while they were both serving as judges? Is any knowledge that you have from your own personal knowledge or something that was told to you in furtherance of legal advice?
Look at that
I have no personal knowledge of when
face.
it actually happened.
Oh,
I was not there.
covers.
I do not have any personal knowledge, so I would choose not to answer that question under 1.6.
Mr. Bradley,
Yeah.
we made a distinction earlier
Yes, sir.
that it's a bit
Yep.
narrower than that.
Okay.
1.6 is.
I have no personal knowledge, Judge. I apologize.
Okay.
If you
And
were,
that's not a problem. The issue is attorney-client privilege. And so whether what you learned, if anything, was during communications with the client.
It was.
Mr. Merchant.
and was it that any knowledge that you had as to the truth of that statement, was it told to you in furtherance of legal advice?
I'm going to object to it if that statement is true.
That's how I-
And
Calm
the
down.
witness has already testified he has no personal knowledge
I got you.
about that. So whether he represented at one point it was true or not true, he has no personal knowledge about that. So could not testify.
Prior inconsistent statement, Judge. Do it all the time. That is what the state does regularly. They bring in, if it's a prior inconsistent statement of another witness, Judge. Mr. Wade
Which other
testified.
witness?
I'm
Okay.
sorry,
Okay, Mr. Wade testified.
that their relationship did not start.
But you can't impeach him with a prior inconsistent statement that's privileged. And so we haven't gotten over the privilege hurdle. You said,
The privilege hurdle we've gotten over with fraud on this instance.
well, that's the first time you used that word. So do you want to make the argument of why that applies? You can do that now.
Yes, Judge, the crime fraud exception. It applies because of the crime fraud exception.
Which crime and or fraud was committed here?
Give it to
So
her.
there's a couple different things, and I want to just address them both because he's raised 1.6 and also raised attorney-client privilege. For the crime fraud exception says the privilege doesn't apply if it's if the existence of it, essentially, if he has to keep something secret to allow a fraud upon the court to continue. So we've got that. We've also got
No, it has to. The legal communications have to have done in furtherance of a crime or fraud. How has that been established? And what crime or fraud are we talking about?
we're talking about perjury, lying to the court.
In the affidavit filed last month.
Yes.
And so what have you done to link the communications that he made maybe, I don't know, years ago to the affidavit filed last month?
The communications he made years ago. It's proof of the affidavit being incorrect, being false. He's given
It may
a
be,
prior inconsistent
but the
statement.
legal communication has to be in furtherance of a crime or fraud.
Right, but he also can't protect. So, and I think it's more under.
So if he had no idea, an affidavit wasn't even going to need to be filed until a month ago. And these communications and everything happened well before that. How is anything that they communicated in furtherance of that affidavit that they didn't even know would have to be filed one day?
It's been waived. That part's been waived because he filed the affidavit. So you can't file something that's false and then your lawyer know that it's false and then say, oh, well, privilege, my lawyer can't correct that. When
Yep.
he waives the privilege, and he waived the privilege. He testified about this yesterday.
Okay, Ms. Cross.
I don't think that's even close to an accurate representation of what the law in this area is. And beyond the real kind of throwing out fraud and this and crime, which what you have, Your Honor, is a conflict in the evidence at this point. I know which way the weight of the evidence appears to me, but that's going to be for the court to judge. But conflict in the evidence, that is not a crime. That is not a fraud. That is not perjury. That's a conflict in the evidence for the court to decide.
So I agree with you there that you would have to first establish a crime or fraud occurred by preponderance. Got it. And anything else?
I think she's already proven
Under the
that.
guise of impeachment of this witness, number one, establish that. Number two, the witness has already said he didn't have any personal knowledge of that. And there is the kind of specificity that is required to lay the predicate for a crime fraud exception to the attorney-client privilege is nowhere close to being met here.
Okay. Anyone else want to be heard? Mr. Seda?
Yes, this is what I said to the court earlier. This is not crime fraud. The scenario in the case I said, you want me to cite it for the record?
Go for it.
Owens Corning Fiberglass Corporation versus American Centennial Insurance Company et al. And it was 6-0, Northeast 2nd, 812, out of the state of Ohio, Lucas County, Court of Common Pleas. And it references, make sure I get the right page. I think it's page 256.
Love it whenever these guys get together and have to opine over bullshit.
If be a party or a witness chooses to testify falsely, and our position is.
I mean, do I think that she should be going after Trump? No, because she's already already stated this.
That if there are attorney-client
I mean, if you're
communications
attacking
in
somebody,
which the
over
same
politics,
individual witness has told his attorney.
that's a
something
shitty
contrary
way
to
of
that,
doing business.
inconsistent with that. Here, that the relationship, personal romantic relationship between Mr. Wade and Mr. Willis began prior to November 1st of 2021, which would be the day that he died. That if that communication took place, that is the attorney communication, that the fraud upon the court is Mr. Wade lying under oath about the starting date, and the attorney-client privilege under those circumstances, where that material fact is pierced, and the attorney may be forced to testify to the contrary or inconsistent statement, so that the fraud on the court no longer holds. In our situation, that is precisely what we are trying to do. if this witness's testimony, again, and the court may have to hear some of this ex parte in camera to determine, but if this witness is able to testify that Mr. Wade told him, under whatever the circumstances may be, that the relationship with Fani Willis began before November 1st of 2021, then we know from what the witness has testified to Mr. Wade that he lied under oath to the court, and that's a fraud upon the court and the attorney-client communication, because that specific matter is pierced and needs to go into the record. Now, how best to do it? The only way to do that, if it's not in writing, and apparently it's not, is for the court to hear in camera, ex parte, what the communications were that are sought to be kept privileged. If the court deems that it is not inconsistent or contrary to what's testified, then you wouldn't pierce the privilege. If, on the other hand, this witness honestly, that is, now we're talking about Mr. Bradley, actually testifies to what he has told in text messages to Ms. Merchant on behalf of Mr. Roman, that he absolutely knows that the relationship started before November 1st of 2021, then he's testifying that his client took the stand and lied under oath and therefore did a fraud upon the court. So my request in this regard, what's going to have to hear from counsel and from counsel from Mr. Bradley and from Mr. Bradley to determine whether or not he actually said what he said to Ms. Merchant and whether or not it was based on communications, whenever it took place with Mr. Wade.
All right, Mr. State, I understand. Thank you for clarifying your argument there. So I understand this fraud upon the cart theory. And what I'd been going back and forth with Ms. Merchant on earlier was that, as I understood, crime fraud applied in Georgia was that the communications had to have been in furtherance of a crime. And to me, that presupposes the existence of a crime at the time, or the forming of one at the time of the communications. The theory you're putting forward is one where we go back in time and can reopen that box because it's now become relevant for something completely potentially unconnected to the communications whatsoever. Is that fair?
Falsity has occurred now by the very person who is attempting to use the communications as a shield to protect his life.
Okay.
And when I say crime fraud, it's a fraud waiver that's what Millich calls it is essentially. Millich says that it doesn't offend the privilege to ask an attorney to testify to matters already freely discussed by the attorney and a client at another hearing or proceeding. Allowing a client to selectively waive and reassert the privilege as tactics suggests that the client is using the privilege as a sword and not merely a shield.
Sure. So I think it was quite explicit that Mr. Wade never waived anything regarding to communications between him and Mr. Bradley. He was willing to discuss the subject matter, but he was never willing to get into communications that occurred between him and Mr. Bradley. So as to Mr. Sadow's point of this fraud upon the court theory, my question is going to be, has it ever been applied in Georgia?
The answer to that is not.
Yes, it has.
I cannot find a case in which it has been applied. The cases that I have, case that I gave you plus the cases cited in there are the only thing I've been able to locate. Although I think that the bar rules, we want to go back to those, and I don't have it in front of me, that a lawyer should not allow his client to commit a fraud upon the court.
Okay.
And I think that, along with this, gives the court the discretion to do that. And
Otherwise, it's all the damn
even if the court
proof.
suggests that this is the law that the court should apply. But even if the court disagrees, there's no way for there to be a record about it unless Your Honor does it ex parte in camera to determine the nature of the privilege, which of course Your Honor knows from earlier days is how judges can do it with the Fifth Amendment privilege. They can do it with any privilege, as long as it's ex parte in camera. So I'm going to ask them, because when I get up, I'm going to ask them direct. I'm not going to go through this that's going on now to find out whether or not Mr. Wade has ever told Mr. Bradley in his capacity as his attorney or otherwise that the relationship started earlier than what Mr. Wade testified to.
All right, understood. So the big takeaway I'm hearing from that, Mr. Sadow, is that once again, we're hearing the words a matter of first impression here. And noted. Mr. Gillen.
Yeah, very quickly, Your Honor. Number one, he apparently, and now he's claiming a privilege, which he certainly did not assert when he was communicating in a text. But his first,
sure, but do we have any indication Mr. Wade waived it and allowed him to communicate by that text?
We know what he did. We know what he did.
So how's that an implied waiver?
I would assume that as the attorney, that he would know whether or not he should protect a communication.
That's a pretty big assumption, right?
Not all communications are protected.
Yes.
Number one. Number two, let's not forget how we started on this journey with the state getting up and making very serious allegations against Ms. Merchant, asking for sanctions, saying all of her representations were inaccurate. And now they are doing whatever they can to block access to that information, which shows exactly what she said was exactly the truth. What they're trying to do is they're trying to say to the court, the 100% accuracy of Mr. Wade's declaration and of his testimony. And by the way, please, Judge, don't let Mr. Bradley tell you what he knows, because what he knows is that this relationship, based upon what we see from the text and what we see in the context, would show that the relationship started before November 2021. So I think we have a waiver issue, and parenthetically on the issue of crime fraud, Your Honor. The issue about crime fraud is whether or not in any context the communication would be not in furtherance of a crime at that time, but it could be for any particular crime committed by the client in the future as well. It doesn't have to be something that's being committed at the time. I will also note that when you look at the attorney-client privilege, the law basically says, look, this is a privilege which blocks evidence from coming in. So in order to have that, they have the crime fraud exception, which is a very low standard once a prima facie showing has been made, which I believe has been done by Ms. Merchant.
All right, let me clarify one thing, Mr. Bradley. When you testify to personal knowledge, does that include anything you may have seen, heard, outside of communications with a client? When you say you lack personal knowledge, does that include anything you may have seen or heard outside of communications with a client? And you can tell me if that question is horribly phrased. I can try again.
You trying to rephrase it for me, Judge? I'm sorry.
Okay. When you say
Go
you lack
after
any
him.
personal knowledge,
Yes, sir.
does that also mean
Like,
that
bring it on.
and include anything you may have seen or heard outside of communications?
Outside of communications with my client.
Mhm.
That's correct.
And communications that were made, if any, that relate to the subject that you were asked to, were there any other third parties present that may have resulted in a waiver of privilege?
Including texts.
Am I answering your question or her question? Okay.
Are there any other third parties ever present with you and a client that would have resulted in a waiver of these privileges?
No, Judge. I can't recall anybody being present. I mean, we ran an office. We had people around the office, but no, I can't say that there were other people present.
All right. And did you ever receive any kind of a waiver from your client at any point?
I have not received a waiver.
And anything that you learned regarding the subject matter at all, if anything, was it in the course of legal advice, of receiving or giving legal advice?
That's a broad question, Judge, to answer, because the advice was given, and then you have interaction. I mean, it wasn't, hey, this is for, to say specifically, this was for that, or, you know, I can't sit here and say that. So I don't know how to answer that question, Judge.
All right.
So try truthfully.
Maybe that's the same proposition I was arguing from. It's only it's Atlanta Coca-Cola Bottling Company versus Goss, Goss. 50 Georgia Appeals 637 appears to be a 1935 decision. Have not had the benefit of jeopardizing it, so can't say certain that's been limited or overruled. It looks like it's maybe head note number 2, which is the one I'm looking at on the computer. Language is in the case, okay, is as to violations of law or commission of fraud, protection extends only to communication after the act or transaction is finished. It does not cover communications respecting proposed infractions of the law and the commission of crime or perpetration of fraud. And then it cites some cases. And then it goes, the privileged communication may be a shield of defense as to crimes already committed, but it cannot be used as a sword or weapon of offense to enable persons to carry out contemplated crimes against societies, frauds, or perjuries. So our position, as I indicated before, is the witness, Mr. Wade, has committed perjury on the witness stand and called into question the statement.
All right. Understood, Mr. McDougal.
Your Honor, this is adjacent Georgia law, perhaps not controlling, and I'll explain that in just a second. And that's rule of professional conduct 3.3A2. A lawyer shall not knowingly fail to disclose a material fact to a tribunal when disclosure is necessary to avoid assisting a criminal or fraudulent act by the client. A4, and the reason I would qualify that, since we're talking about candidate of the court, I need to do that. I believe this rule is regarding the conduct of advocates representing clients in court. It might not govern or control the situation where the lawyer has been put on the stand, but it's adjacent to the point Mr. Sadow made earlier.
All right. Fair point. Okay. Mr. Tripp, anything you want to address on that?
Briefly, Judge, and clearly there's a lot of smarts in this room, but this whole thing is a deductive fallacy. It is suggested that the truth of the conclusion of the argument necessarily follows from the truth of the premises given, when in fact the conclusion does not necessarily follow the premises. They're, we've called him a perjurist. He has officially succeeded in saying the thing itself is true. Therefore, we must ask these other questions. And Judge, it's a fallacy. It does not exist as such, and the privilege should still apply.
All right. Thank you all. So I think here is what we need to do, as I understand the law. As I find it, the crime fraud exception only applies when by preponderance we found that communications made in the existence of a relationship or in furtherance of a crime, or the client at the time knew or reasonably should have known that a crime, that the attorney was being used to further a crime. I don't think that's been established here. Maybe something happened afterwards, and that's something that can be argued during closings, essentially. So I don't think the crime fraud exception covers this. The objection is preserved for the record. Mr. Bradley has indicated also that anything he learned about this subject occurred during those communications. There's some uncertainty on that point. And so in order to preserve the record, at the conclusion of the hearing, I think I can go in camera with Mr. Chopra and Mr. Bradley, and we can put in a sealed filing exactly what the extent of those communications were, if any were relevant. Or excuse me, not relevant, but just what they were, and those would remain sealed until some time if we're ever directed otherwise. However, at this point, the question, getting back to the question asked by Ms. Merchant, as asked, would be sustained on the issue of privilege the premise. He may have told you something, but it does not appear that there's any evidence that the client ever waived and allowed that information to be conveyed to you. Next question.
Thank you, Judge. All right, let's see. So, we talked about Ms. Willis and Mr. Wade coming to and from your office and security details following them. Do you recall that?
Do I need to look at my phone?
No.
Or can I-
I'm just asking if you
Oh, do I
recall.
recall? I think I did, yes.
Do you recall security taking Ms. Willis to your office?
I object to that.
Does he recall
Actually, I
Ms.
take
Willis
that back.
taking?
No, we're done.
You can answer the question, sir.
I do recall security detail bringing Ms. Willis to my office.
Do you recall approximately when that was?
I do not.
And was that on more than one occasion?
I remember 2 occasions.
Okay.
Yes.
Can you tell me about those?
I can't remember when they were.
Were they before she became DA?
So I don't know if she had security detail before she became DA. So I mean, if she was sworn in, or I don't remember the dates, but I do remember. I think she was DA.
Maybe during her transition team period? Was that?
No, it wasn't. Trying to remember. She would have had to have been the DA, I think. And I don't want to go on, I think. But I do remember twice her coming to our office. Correct.
And she had a security team both of those times.
That was yes, she has a security team with her.
And do you believe that it's a different security team than she has now?
I don't know her security team now.
Well,
However,
I'm sorry.
I don't know her security team now. I don't know her security team now.
Do you remember telling me that it changed at some point, her security team?
Yes, I think I recall saying that, yes.
And that the most likely people that could testify or had seen things about them having a romantic relationship early on would be the original security team.
I don't recall saying that, no, but
Do you recall talking to me about other people that might have known about their romantic relationship?
I recall.
Yeah, I mean, objection based on, we don't know the source. This is either based on privileged information or it's hearsay. You're one.
It's neither. I asked if you recall.
You need to clarify it. If you're actually going to if you think that this draws on information from outside the relationship that he's already testified to, then you need to lay that foundation.
So
Sustained.
are you aware of other people that you believed would have known about when their relationship began?
I object to the relevance of that. Again, the witness has testified he has no firsthand information of it. Anything he knows about the topic came from representation. Who he thinks might have been able to say something else is speculation, not relevant to anything, and a backdoor to get in the gossip and innuendo that has been pretty much this entire.
All right. Okay, Ms. Merchant, I think we're getting to the point where, you know, the reason I thought this line of questioning was appropriate was to rebut certain inferences about why we were here in the first place.
Right.
But to go into it at the granular level, I'm not as wild about. So if maybe you can ask more overarching questions, and if you have anything else you think that's relevant, then you can get to those as well.
Isn't it true that I gave you a copy of the motion to disqualify in this case? I emailed it to you and you read it, reviewed it, and emailed me back that everything in it was accurate, to your knowledge.
You emailed me, and
Objection.
Okay. All right. So there are things contained within that, Ms. Merchant, which he has now said fell within the privilege, and that he did not have the ability to waive. So I think that's where we have to leave it there.
And I believe I still have to ask the questions, and then if he wants to assert the privilege, I think.
Well, I think he's pretty much already established the privilege, and the objection has been made, and I think it's a valid one at this point based on the record. So the answer was he did acknowledge that you sent him the motion, and I think we leave it at that.
Let's see. And you had knowledge about an apartment. I'm not asking what Mr. Wade told you in furtherance of legal advice, but you had knowledge about an apartment in East Point or a condo in East Point that was owned by someone, and Miss Willis was staying there.
Judge privilege.
I think in the way the question's phrased, she qualified that. So
I did not have knowledge.
You did not have knowledge.
I did not have personal knowledge at all. No,
So no knowledge outside of what is privileged.
that's correct.
Did you have texts between yourself, Miss Willis, and Mr. Wade?
Do I?
Have you ever?
I have. Maybe once or twice, but
Did Mr. Wade ever ask to use your credit card to pay for trips?
Objection.
on
On privilege. I mean, it's still the same thing.
just asking him to use a credit card, how's that in the nature of furthering a divorce proceeding?
I had a business card, and we would use my business card. The firm would use my business card.
For travel?
Are you asking if I use my business card for travel?
Would Mr. Wade use your business card for travel?
I recall, I recall a trip, but I don't know if that trip has anything to do with this case. So I do recall him using my card once.
When was that?
I don't even know when that was, and that's not the truth. I recall him using my card once, but I cannot remember what that was for. I do remember it was a trip, but I cannot accurately state, where it was and who it was with or anything like that.
And he paid you back for that trip in cash?
I can't remember how he paid. I think it was. I mean, I'm not certain if it was cash or a check. We routinely would use my card for filings, for paper, for whatever stuff with the office. And so,
Oh, I'm sorry. You're done, sorry.
and so he would, whether he paid me back in cash or whether he wrote a check, it was paid back to the business card.
And this was the only time he had used it for travel.
I cannot recall. I don't even have that business card anymore. But I do recall at least once for travel. Yes,
And that was when you were still law partners with him, though, correct?
that is correct.
Do you recall approximately when that was?
I do not.
You did not go on that travel with him, though, correct?
I did not.
Okay. And so he asked you to use your card for the travel.
Yes, I mean, I'm assuming. I mean, we would use the card for firm stuff, and so it was a business card.
Your business card, don't
It was
you?
my business card. Yes,
Right.
the law office of Terrence A. Bradley. Correct.
So it showed up on your accounts.
That is correct.
Okay. Wouldn't show up on his accounts, though, correct?
That would be accurate. Yes,
Do you know if this was before he became special DA in this case, special prosecutor?
I cannot recall.
Did you see he and Miss Willis together? You said you were in and out of the office, in and out of the DA's office. You saw them together, correct?
In and out of my office or the DA's office?
The DA's office.
Correct.
You saw them together in and out of the DA's office.
Did I see them in and out?
Yes.
Well, if you preface it like that, no. I saw him in and out of the office when I would be there doing my filter work for the tank team.
Right.
He would come by. I rarely saw Miss Willis and Mr. Wade together in the DA's office.
So you brought up the tank team. Let's talk about that for a minute. Tell me about you did work you had a contract as a tank lawyer, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And that was in the anti-corruption unit.
Yes, I think so. Yes, correct.
And how did you get that contract?
What do you mean? How did I get it?
How did you get the contract?
It was.
Bid? Did you apply online?
Oh no. It was proposed. We were. It was proposed by. I guess it came from the district attorney. I mean, I didn't speak directly with her.
Okay.
It was with Mr. Wade, and he asked if we would be interested in having a contract with the Fulton County.
Okay.
and
He
I
asked
said,
you,
"What?"
Mr. Campbell?
I think so. I mean, I can't recall if he asked us both together or not. Rarely, we all handled several, not different things for the firm:
Okay.
criminal, personal injury, things like that, family law. And so rarely were we together there at the same time, like for an abundance of time. So he may have called me and then he may have called Chris. I can't remember. I can't recall how we got the contract, but
Did was Mr. Wade, to your knowledge, part of the transition team for Miss Willis?
to my knowledge, he was part of the transition team.
Did he spend a lot of time at that office during this transition period?
He did.
So from when Miss Willis took office to when you left the firm, did Mr. Wade spend most of his time at the DA's office?
I don't know.
He said most of his time, you're saying just working business hours, or
In business hours.
I would say he spent I would probably say he spent majority of time. If you say over 51%, I would say yes, he spent over 51% of his time.
And that was the entire time from when she took office to when you left the firm.
I can't say that was the entire time, but yes, it was majority of it was I mean, I can't pinpoint specifically when the time that he would spend. I think if my memory serves correctly, getting to the majority of the time, it would have been whenever he started with this, maybe. That was
as a special prosecutor.
when you say majority of the time.
Right. Okay. So let's talk about the time before he became special prosecutor. Did he spend a lot of time at the DA's office then?
He spent time. I mean, it depends on what you say is a lot. He spent time at the DA's office, correct?
And so just so we're clear, you were hired first on January 25th. Both you and Mr. Campbell were law partners and you were both hired by the DA January 25th, 2021. Is that correct?
Repeat the question, I'm sorry.
You and Mr. Campbell
Yes.
both were hired
Mhm.
on a contract basis by DA Willis
Mhm.
January 25th, 2021, correct?
Which contract are you talking
The
about?
first one, the tank contract, not the first appearance contract, the tank
Okay.
contract.
Well, you said the first one, and the tank contract wasn't the first contract. And so
Okay. So what was the first contract?
To my knowledge, the first contract was the first appearance.
Okay, so, let me just mark these. Let's see what number are we at. 23, 24, 25. Those are his contracts. Oh, sorry. Judge, when they're done reviewing the contracts. Thanks. Thanks. Ms. Bradley showing you what's good mark. Defense exhibit 23, 24, and 25. If you get to take a look at those.
Hmm. Come on, get with it, buddy.
Is it true that on January 25th, 2021, you got your first contract as a taint lawyer?
As a taint lawyer, yes, I see the date on that as a taint lawyer, but I'm also looking at this contract here for first appearance, and there must have been. I don't have it before me, but there must have been a contract before this.
Okay, so you think there's a fourth contract?
I can't say that there is or isn't. What I do know is that we did first appearance during COVID, and it was before 2021. So I don't know, if I had a written contract at that particular time or anything, but I do know, I think that you could look at the recordings because everything was recorded at that time as to when the first appearance contract started and the taint contract started.
So when the three of you were partners, you had at least two contracts to do taint work, which is filter work, and then at least two contracts to do first appearance work, pretty much throughout that entire 2 years, right?
Well, it renewed. So, I mean, it just renewed. So yes, I mean, if it was the same contract, but it was a renewal of the contract.
So how did you, and you said you got these contracts through, Ms. Willis gave them to you, but it was through her knowing Mr. Wade, correct?
Yes, I didn't have a meeting with Ms. Willis or anything. It was brought to the attention that a contract was going to be needed or awarded, and if I was interested, because this was off of mine, and I said yes. And so
Mr. Wade brought that to your attention?
he asked if I was interested in doing the contract, correct? And then after that is when Ms. Willis, would come in, or I think we actually came down here or something, and signed the contract.
And so that is how you were paid from Fulton County, these contracts?
From Fulton County government? Yes, ma'am.
And you shared your partnership, you shared a third of all your profits with Mr. Wade?
At that time, yes.
And so his contract, he got a contract that same year, 2021, and he shared a third of all his profits with you, correct?
Yes, that should be fairly accurate.
Okay, so during 2021, 2022, you all had two filter taint contracts. You had two first appearance contracts, and you had Mr. Wade's special counsel contracts, correct?
Yep.
My firm had what I have here, correct?
So Mr. Campbell and Mr. Wade were part of your firm, correct?
So I don't think at this time we had established WBC.
Okay.
At this time, I think I had mine, Chris had his, Nathan had his, and we operated in the same building. But if you ask me, did we fee share or, without everything that came in? Yes, that is correct.
So you weren't actually partners, you just fee shared.
At this time, well, yes, at this time, we were not. At this time, I had Law Officer Terrence Bradley, Chris Campbell, PC, and whatever Nathan's was, if I'm not mistaken.
And all these the taint contracts and the Nathan's special counsel contracts, all of those were under the anti-corruption unit, correct?
First appearance was not under that. The taint contract, if I recall, was under the. I don't think they called it. What are you calling it?
You can take a look at your contract if you need.
Okay.
And I'm not asking about the first appearance. I'm asking about the taint contracts and then Mr. Wade's contract, which has already been admitted in evidence if you need to look.
Yeah, you don't want to be lying on this stuff. Even the judge is just like, that's the thing. You don't even want to have the appearance of something shady. You have something even with the appearance of it. Man,
Let me know when
you
you're done
just-
reviewing.
You just tore
Well,
it.
I see on the first page where it says taint attorney, and I'm trying to go through and I see where it continues says taint attorney, but it always says Fulton County District Attorney's Office. Your question was specific as to the anti-corruption unit, and I'm looking for the verbiage of anti-corruption unit, so I apologize.
No, no, take your time.
And see, on both pages, I mean, it starts out Fulton County District Attorney's Office, and then it just goes to initials FCDA, unless
Uh-huh.
I'm overlooking where it says the anti-corruption unit, then the contract was with the FCDA. I mean, unless you want to show me something.
I'm just asking you, and I didn't know if that would refresh your memory. Those contracts were for the anti-corruption unit, right?
Well, they were for the district.
Worked for.
I work for the DA.
Okay.
I work for the DA.
Okay, so just in general, the DA.
Correct. I work for Fulton County District Attorney's Office in a as a contract person, as it says here.
And when you did the taint work, you had to report to Sonia Allen.
I did not.
You did not. Who did you report to then?
Mhm.
I can't remember his name. His first name was Brian.
And let's see. So I know you said you met with Miss Willis when you signed those contracts, right?
Oh boy.
Yes, I know I met at least one time to sign these contracts, or to sign when I signed the contracts. Yes.
Did you meet with her any other times?
I did not personally meet with Ms. Willis any other time. When you say meet with, what do you mean meet with?
Talk with her, meet with her.
I mean, I would see Ms. Willis in passing if I'm walking through the office and something like that. But no, I didn't have any meetings with Ms.
Yeah,
Willis.
I don't want
So
to
the only time you met with her were when you signed those contracts.
Clarify meet with. I mean,
Sat down and had a conversation with her.
I signed these contracts. So when I signed these, I met with her. To say that I sat down and spoke with Ms. Willis, are you saying in life? And you saying during this time? What are you asking me?
I mean, if it's voluminous, I can narrow down the times, but I wasn't.
Mr. Merchant, I haven't really heard a point in a while. Can we get along to something, or we're going to have to wrap it up?
So I had one more question
Yeah,
about
we
your
just
text.
started waiting
Have
on
you
you
ever
to
been in
answer
any
the
group
damn
text with
question.
anybody other than with me and somebody other than Mr. Chopra and Mr. Merchant?
Jeez.
You got to narrow that down. I'm sure
I
somebody
can look at my phone,
So
but I
with
don't.
him, if there had been any other texts, and I think that the state had some
Him
things rebuttal they
being-
mentioned, so I was just trying to clean that up before it got there.
Yeah, he's
Can you
just
try the question one more time for
Yeah.
me?
Isn't it true that the only texts that you and I have ever had have been between me and you,
I'm
me,
playing
you and
dumb.
Mr. Chopra, or me, you and John
Mhm.
Merchant, correct?
Go ahead.
Can I look at my phone?
Sure.
Sure. Look at your phone, because you probably deleted those messages anyway.
And what's the relevance of that, Ms. Merchant?
They've said multiple times that there's this third party that we've talked to, and I'm trying to establish there's no third party. And I don't know why it was relevant, but the state argued it. So
Well, if Ms. Merchant doesn't know why it's relevant, then maybe it
Okay.
become relevant later, but right now.
Ms. Merchant, I think you've been able to show
Okay.
what maybe launched this and answer the state's initial claims. And so let's get back to the core of what we were here for this hearing. Do you have anything else relevant to ask this witness?
after you, yes, just a few more questions. After it became known that you were placed under subpoena, did you get a call from Gabe Banks?
I did.
And was he trying to determine if you were going to be giving information in this case?
I can't. I don't know what he was trying to determine. He stated that it wasn't odd. I had not spoken to Gabe in a while. We are colleagues. We are friends. We are in the same fraternity, Gabe and I. And when he called,
Oh,
it was out of the blue,
there he goes.
but he did call. Yes, ma'am.
And you relayed that to me as well, correct?
I did.
And then you also got a call from your best friend who was relaying a message to you from Mr. Wade, correct?
No, I got a call saying that he got a call, not that a message that was supposed to be relayed to me. The call was,
Just how deep does it
There's a hearsay, if the response was public hearsay, thus far it hasn't.
Sure. So here's the objection as to the contents of the call, Ms. Merchant.
I believe the contents of the call were to remember your privilege. I took that as a threat. I think Mr. Bradley took it as a threat, and I think he would testify to that.
And
Hasn't testified to it. And he also said there wasn't any message relayed by Mr. Wade or any other party.
well, no, he didn't say it was by any party.
Mr. Wade.
So assuming he did hear something from a party, what's the hearsay exception for that, Ms. Merchant?
I believe that it was a threat, so it's a statement against interest. I'm sorry. So if he took it as a threat to influence his testimony, then it's not hearsay. Then it would be admissible.
All right. So
I did not take it as a threat.
Oh,
if you're saying it's to the effect on the listener, perhaps,
Yes.
then we'll go from there.
Were you told to remember your privilege?
Your Honor, the witness just testified he didn't take it as a threat.
Understood. I'll overrule the objection and the testimony given the weight it deserves.
Can you repeat the question?
Were you told to remember your
Your
privilege?
Honor, can we?
I was not.
The witness, there may be a potential witness now in the courtroom because the person that Ms. Merchant is referring to is sitting in the courtroom.
If that witness hasn't been told to testify, then I don't see any sequestration issues.
I don't know who it is. I don't know his
All
name.
right. Okay, and so were you told anything to that effect, Mr. Bradley?
Repeat the question one more time. But so I was not told, remember my privilege.
Something about privilege, remembering that.
I do recall privilege being mentioned, but it wasn't remember your privilege or, you know, a threat of any sort.
You immediately called me after.
No, I called someone else after.
You called me quickly thereafter then.
I talked to you that day. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Here's the
Sit
problem
down.
with the with attorneys.
Your Honor, because this is a defense witness, is it the state's first cross?
We,
That's how we had been doing it yesterday.
It's like playing a game of
yeah, I've been.
whack-a-mole.
This,
Okay,
this is the
I
first time he's gone, and then we go through all the defense, and then you'll have your chance.
All this is a game of fucking whack-a-mole.
Some foundation questions to begin with, please. Your testimony as you began representing Mr. Wade as his attorney on what date or what approximate date?
I didn't have an approximate date.
Then give me an approximate date when you began acting as Mr. Wade's attorney.
I would say it was, you know, if I'm speculating.
I really don't want you to speculate. I mean, you're the one that was the attorney and Mr. Wade was the client.
Right.
So give us the ballpark figure of when it was that you began acting as his attorney
Maybe 2017, 2018, I think, maybe.
and the purpose for which you were retained.
His divorce.
So according to you, from that time period, your communications with Mr. Wade with regard to the divorce or any matters related to the divorce, it's your position are confidential, I'm sorry, are privileged, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, good. Now, did you ever meet with Ms. Willis and Mr. Wade prior to, and everything I'm asking you was prior to November of 2021, okay?
Okay.
Keep that in mind. That's,
Why are you yelling?
I don't think he's yelling, Mr. Bradley. He's just speaking up. All right, Mr. Stay down. Let's go.
Oh,
thank you. Prior to Mr. Wade
this guy is being a jackleg. He's been. Why are you yelling? Oh, he does not like this guy at all.
getting his contract with Fulton County, which was November 1st of 2021, okay? Please keep that in mind.
November 1st of 2021.
Right. Did you ever socialize with Mr. Wade and Ms. Willis prior to November 1st of 2021?
I've never socialized with Mr. Wade or Miss Willis.
He's trying to he's trying to avoid the question because he knows he's fucking full of shit.
In any setting, if you're asking, have I ever met with them, then I would say yes. But when you say socialize, what do you mean socialize?
Have you ever gone out to eat with both of them?
Before 2021, I do not
Or
think
November 1st of 2021?
out to eat with both of them before.
Don't
When was she
lie.
sworn in? I'm sorry. When was she sworn in? There was a dinner before. When she was sworn in that I attended. Shaquille O'Neal was there, so it was like her inauguration dinner. So I'm thinking that's before 2021. So I would say yes.
Assume for purposes of my question,
Yes, sir.
that's in early January of 2021.
What?
That is early January 2021. Then so yes, I mean it would be before November. So if it was January, yes, that dinner would have been I'm assuming January.
And any other time that you socialized, went out to eat, went to anyone's home, you know what socialized is.
Exactly. So no, I did not socialize with Mr. Willis. I mean with Miss Willis and Mr. Wade.
Prior to November 1st of 2021,
Miss
did Miss Willis
Oh.
come to your offices?
Oh, Mr.
Your offices,
Willis.
I mean the offices that you shared with Mr. Wade.
I think she came once or twice to our office, correct?
And the purpose
I'm
for which
sure
she came?
came several times.
I don't know. We had separate offices. I do recall.
Well, let's-
I do recall some type of meeting happening at our office, and I don't know what that was about. I wasn't a part of those meetings. There was a meeting. There were other people there. There were other people from the, I want to say DA's office there, maybe.
Let's go back to the basics. Ms. Willis came to your offices, together offices, on a couple different occasions.
I recall Ms. Willis coming to my office at least twice.
And on at least one of those occasions, or you tell us, did Ms. Willis meet privately with Mr. Wade in his office that you observed or heard?
I can't recall.
You can't recall.
No.
Did she ever meet with you in your office? Ms. Willis now.
Privately in my office? No. I've never met privately in any office with her outside of signing this contract.
Did Mr. Wade, prior to November 1st of 2021, ever talk to you about socializing with Ms. Willis?
I can't recall.
You can't recall?
You're asking me if he ever mentioned to me that he socialized.
With Ms. Willis, correct.
And I'm saying I cannot recall if he socialized with Ms. Willis, if he ever mentioned to me that he socialized.
Did he ever mention to you that he ate or went out to dinner with Ms. Willis? Again, time period before November 1st of 2021.
Did he,
He's-
repeat your question?
He's trying
Mr.
to
Wade
lie.
ever tell you prior to November
Trying to
1st of
make- he's trying to
2021
avoid
that
the
he had
question.
socialized, gone out to
So
eat,
obvious.
visited Ms. Willis in anything other than a professional setting?
I'm sure he did, maybe. I don't recall any specifics of any dinners, any specific places. I mean, it's been 3 years ago, the time frame, but I do not recall at this time whether or not he ever mentioned any dinners or socializing.
Did Mr. Wade mention to you that he visited Ms. Willis at Ms. Willis's then current abode, which would have been a place, not her original house, but a place she was staying in the period of 2021 before November 1 of 2021? And his question is, did Mr. Wade ever tell you that he visited Ms. Willis at her house?
I don't think I can answer that.
Privilege.
Mr. State, if you want to try and rephrase the question, you can, but otherwise that would be sustained.
On both grounds or just on the privilege ground?
I didn't hear a second ground.
The hearsay ground.
Oh, that would be on privilege alone.
Did you talk to Mr. Wade at all about his relationship with Ms. Willis prior to November 1st of 2021?
I think he's just middling a record, Mr. Wade. It's okay. And so on those same grounds, Mr. State, on all subsequent grounds, apparently the relationship with Ms. Willis in any way is covered by privilege according to this witness.
Well, I think the key words, respectfully, Your Honor, are according to this witness. So I'm trying to drill down to see if there are communications that are not within the privilege.
Sure.
I can.
So then we need to acknowledge the privilege in the form of your question, right?
You're asking me to ask it as in a way saying, are there any non-privileged?
Essentially.
Okay. Did you ever communicate with Mr. Wade prior to November 1st of 2021 about Ms. Willis that was not privileged?
I mean, we discussed this contract, but
This contract doesn't help. You have to give me a exhibit number, please.
you said before November 2021?
Yeah,
November 1st
he's,
of 2021.
Before November, this contract for 12521 is before that. So I mean, we discussed this contract.
What a smart man.
And if I remember correctly, but again, just give me that exhibit number so we can reference.
Exhibit
Shit him.
23
Okay, hold
would
on
have
one
been.
second.
Gonna talk
One second.
about
On
shit.
exhibit 23, did I understand you to say that it was Mr. Wade that in fact brought you and Ms. Willis together for the contract?
I went skipping rope, at one point in time, and
That would be accurate, yes.
Okay. And what did you understand was a relationship at that point between Ms. Willis and Mr. Wade for Mr. Wade to be able to bring you to Ms. Willis for the contract? It's not a hard question. It's
No,
really
I'm
simple.
just state that again.
yeah, he's trying.
Mr. Wade is the one that basically says to you,
He's
go see Ms. Willis about this contract,
formulating-
right?
He's formulating.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, Mr. Yes.
So Mr. Wade had to have some knowledge,
His ass
which is-
handed to
Yes.
right? That you going to Ms. Willis might bring you the contract.
I never went to.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Everybody knows that these two were screwing around. Everyone knows that shady shit was going on. Everyone knows, even including this guy, that if he says anything, his chances of continuing with those contracts that he currently has with Fulton County, he has a lot to lose, because if Fulton County digs down into it, they look at it, they're going to go, why are we paying this guy hundreds of thousands of dollars to go after a former president that said, hey, do me a favor, take a look at this, because something doesn't look right here. Something looks shady. They're saying that there's 100,000 votes that just all of a sudden disappeared. And that's what this is all about. These people will lie, cheat, steal every single bit as much as they possibly can, just to make sure that they've got their point across. And if they're doing it with this guy, just think what they're going to do with the next guy, and the next guy, and the next guy, and the next guy. It is so incestuous, and they know it, and they're about to get their asses handed to them. And if the judge doesn't realize this, And if the prosecution doesn't realize this, well, maybe they do. This should be just thrown out. Just remove her, and that way there's no sense of impropriety going
Miss
on
Willis.
with this bullshit.
So I stated I never went to Miss Willis. I was told about that there was a potential contract, and I was asked by Mr. Wade if I would be interested in doing that contract.
My question to you is, what was the basis that you understood Mr. Wade being able to potentially offer you that contract on Miss Willis's behalf?
I object to that. That's a mischaracterization. Mr. Wade offered it to him. I think he said he expressed interest. And also, I don't see the relevance of this at all.
So just in terms of relevance or phrasing, I'll overrule on those grounds. So the question that's standing unobjected to, Mr. Bradley.
Can you repeat the question?
You've explained to us how the contract
Yes.
came to you, correct?
Yes.
And my question is, what was your understanding of the relationship of Mr. Wade and Miss Willis for it to have been offered, or whatever word you want to use, for him to have said, expressed to you whether you had an interest in the contract?
Privilege.
All right, Mr. Evans is invoke privilege on that question. So Mr. Sadao, I think you need to clarify whether.
Was it a privileged conversation that you had with Mr. Wade that let you know about the contract?
Or, it was the relationship was the question you're focused on.
Is the nature, no, I'm trying to do it in such a way, and I understand what the court's saying. Was it the relationship that I asked you about just now between Mr. Wade and Miss Willis that gave rise to the contract?
Really?
Did you know about that relationship as a result of an attorney-client communication?
Oh, man.
No, I knew of that through whatever work they did together as municipal court judges. That's.
How did you know that? Who told you about the work that they did together as municipal court judges?
Mr. Wade told me that they did work at the conference.
Okay, now, this would have been something that Mr. Wade said, according to your time period, at the time that you were representing Mr. Wade, correct?
Say that again? Ask that again?
Mr. Wade would have told you what you just told the court after you had established an attorney-client relationship with Mr. Wade, correct?
Yes, but when he told me of them being at a conference, I mean, I'm not understanding how relate. I'm trying to understand your question.
Well, my question is basically, you had communications with Mr. Wade directly. That was not attorney-client privilege, right?
Man, do not believe this guy. What he's saying is, I am trying to figure out a way that I can word this that keeps me from not getting any more of those Fulton County contracts anymore, because this is easy money right now. And damn it, you are screwing that all up by asking these kinds of questions. It's going to put me in deep water, because I know the bullshit that these motherfuckers were doing. I know the crap that they were doing. But if I talk about it, then what's going to happen is I'm going to lose those contracts like a motherfucker, because they're going to say, shit, we can't trust this guy. He is a little fucking lapdog to all these little cocksuckers out there. There you go. Have fun. And this is the bullshit you have to deal with in politics. Good fucking luck. It would have been better if you would have just hung up your fucking bar license and just done fucking elder law. Good job.
I've had conversations with Mr. Wade that were not attorney-client privilege. Yes.
That involved Miss Willis, correct?
I just stated that they were at a conference. I don't know whether or not that involved her or not.
Well, if he's talking about her, that is, if Mr. Wade is telling you about Miss Willis and Mr. Wade having met at a conference, right? Then he's talking about Miss Willis, correct?
Yes, but he also told me about other people that he met at the conference.
But he told you about Miss Willis as well, correct?
I think so, yes.
So there were communications in which Miss Willis was at least a topic that was not covered by attorney-client privilege, correct?
This particular instance, I was told about a conference.
But this
instance,
instance, come on.
I can't remember the dates of the conference, but it would have been after the conference.
Okay, I'm trying to get just the time period here. After the conference, I want you to understand from the record, I believe we've shown that the conference was sometime in October.
Holy freaking cow. In case you don't know.
I'm the dude. So that's what you call me, that or his dudeness or duder or, El Duderino, if you're not into the whole brevity thing.
Hey,
okay. I have to confess, I hate that movie. I hate that movie with a passion. It has no plot. I can't understand. It is like watching an entire movie.
Do you know what it is?
Seinfeld.
Do you know what it is? And I can cut it. I can break it down for you really quick. It's super easy. What this boils down to. that whole movie is basically about some guy that is just cruising along through life. He doesn't want to fuck with anybody. He doesn't really fucking care. He doesn't want to get involved in your politics or your bullshit. But he's sitting there, he's just living his fucking life, and it's not the best fucking life. He's lonely, miserable, boring, whatever. And he comes in one day, and some dude's pissing on his carpet because he happens to share the same name as some other poor pissant. And he's just like, listen, I go bowling. I'm like the most boring person. Why are you coming around and fucking with me? And they come around and fuck with him. And he's just like, you know what, you assholes. It's like,
It did make me want a lot of White Russians, though. Though I'm more of a mudslide person myself.
Yeah, mudslides are much better. But that's all it really is. It's just like a week in the life of some dude that's just like, why does everybody around me have to be assholes? I was happy just living in my apartment and bowling on the weekends, and all of you psycho motherfuckers around me are causing so much shit. And he gets
Did you get to bang Julian Moore? So I mean,
can't blame him for that.
Well, yeah. So I mean, it just. I'm so type A that I was like, okay, is he going to do it? He's just hanging out. He's just duding it through his life.
Exactly.
Which now I'm like, holy shit, could I just dude through my entire life?
You could.
But
no, most people don't. But this is like a guy that is like 2 steps away from being fucking homeless. And he pays his rent. He's might be a little bit late on it most of the time, but he's just like, man, just stop being asshole to me. I'm not fucking with anybody. I'm just living my life, and it may be miserable. And sure, I'm not the most exciting guy out there, but geez, leave me the fuck alone. That's him.
I love my children, but none of the boys were born with an inside voice. And all day today, it's been inside voice. I know, I am. No, that's a Fani Willis inside voice.
Oh yeah, it is. Oh my God, these people are so insufferable, and I understand where they're coming from. And I pointed this out earlier. I understand where this guy is coming from. He has got contracts with Fulton County. Okay, if he says anything, that isn't drug out of him by tooth and nail, then he is going to lose those contracts. They will not renew them. Because she is in charge of who gets that shit, who gets that work. And if you go against these motherfuckers, and it's the same way if you're dealing with tax commissioners, if you're dealing with Fulton County executive committees and all this kind of shit, if you say anything against them, your contracts are done, you're over, you're finished, finito.
Oh yeah. It just, I mean, I guess so when you get and I'm not Republican or Democrat. I think I'm of the Lewis Black persuasion. Republicans suck, Democrats blow. Libertarians don't know what the hell they're doing because they don't know where Aleppo is. Anywho. But so when you get your Democrat card, do they give you like a concrete course on how to answer but not answer a question?
No, whenever they give you your lawyer card, they tell you how not to answer a question, because that's all he's been doing the whole time. It's just like, and he's holding their feet to the fire, which he's holding up on his own. This guy is not stupid, and he knows what's being said in private. He knows that shady shit is going on. He knows that dude has been banging Fani forever, and that he's doing it against the will of his wife, and that shit can't come out in court. He knows all of this shit, but he's also got those sweet contracts. Whenever you're pulling in probably close to 6G a year from Fulton County, why would you want to kick that
goatee?
Yeah, it's a weird goatee. It's like a porn stash, and then just sort of like let it like match into the middle somewhere, and then
It's
it's
like the
like
world's thinnest pencil mustache up here. We're gonna thicken the line and then mutton chops for my chin.
from a chin.
I
Exactly. It's
chin
like
chops, if you
it's like
will.
ball sacks on his chin.
Yeah, that's what I'm was like, well, I didn't want to say it, but
Well,
he does.
they tickle the man. They tickle him.
It just
No, I mean, and you also have to understand every single lawyer in this room knows each other, and they've gone against each other, and they've talked
oh
with
yeah.
each other. They'll probably sit down and have a drink afterwards. They know each one of these people know each one of these fucking people. They've served with them. They've met them in court. Some of them like them. Some of them dislike each other. And when all is said and done, they're just this is like a high school where
Re-
everybody knows everybody. They respect each other because they're all attorneys, and they're it is like a fucking game of Clue. And it's like, okay, whack-a-mole, clue, whack-a-mole, clue. It's just like you have to say something and really word it correctly, because if you don't word it correctly, they'll come back and they'll say, that's not what I said, or that's not how I said it, or what are you talking? And you'll notice that there will be a lot of like babble in between. That's what Fanny is doing. Is every time that she got called up to the stand, she would just sit there and she would have to tell this long story, this long drawn out story, because by the time she finishes, you forgot what the question was. And
She
the only
does
reason I know this
Harris
is because
better than
I'm married to
Harris.
a lawyer. Okay, I'm married to a lawyer, and I know whenever she's feeding me a bunch of bullshit, and she'll start she'll start rattling off all this stuff, and I'm just like, stop. Like, no, we're not playing that shit. It's like, now you're starting to all lawyer up on me, and I ain't playing that shit. She can't get away with it on me. Sometimes I let her because I'm just like, yeah, it's not worth fighting over. But sometimes I'm just like, no, we're not going
Oh,
there.
my teen is smart.
Ah,
It's really snowing quite quickly out. We've got about an inch
nice.
in half an hour. And so she's like, "Mom," because she can drive now, she's like, "Mom, I'm having a friend who has her dad has four-wheel drive. He's picking both of us up from our job, and then I'm gonna spend the night there instead of driving my car home because the roads are dangerous."
Well, make sure you tell her to pick up French toast ingredients: eggs, bread,
Uh,
cinnamon,
yes,
milk,
vodka. Wait, she
vodka.
can't.
Oh, sure she can. I mean, she can't, but the guy driving the four-wheeler can. By the way, I
Sometimes.
am drinking, so
Oh,
I've
I
been
was about to get a drink.
drink away. I've been drinking since shit. What time is it now? Since about 3. So
Oh,
somewhere
well,
around in there.
the doctor was super nice, and he tried to use all different trajectories to get to my nerve, but apparently I have a nerve bundle outside of my spine.
Oh,
Like, appar I was like, "Okay, well, if you can't do that, can you at least give me abs?" And they're like, "Well, no, not really." I was like, "Well, damn."
what
But he tried to get it
use are
about
you?
5 different ways, and my leg's like, "Yeah, screw you today."
Oh, oh. Yeah, and I mean today this was one of those, and I just pulled it up for the absolute hell of it. Look at that. Mo lefty, only a little.
And
All
this
you
is
guys,
a
Zach.
Bramble Mule on
Nice.
clearance
I
because I
have
love
got
clearance.
I have got I've got a drafty kilt.
Ooh.
Scotch ale. But what I'm drinking is something that I'm not going to open up. It is a Gaelic ale, and
Ooh.
it's pretty damn tasty. And then of course I've got my rye, which I'm just sipping on currently, and just like fuck it, because
Oh, yeah.
I've got about another hour, I would say. Probably about another half hour before I'm going to go make dinner for my wife, and and then I'm gonna probably
Okay.
jump on with
So
Nick
you
for
are
a
a
while.
man, and I have a question.
Mhm.
If, say, your wife ordered a very expensive embroidery stand, we're just throwing this out there
Yeah,
hypothetically,
yeah.
and it came in, but it doesn't have instructions, but you've been working hard all day, but your wife is really excited to get this built. Should she just ask you tomorrow because you seem like you're in kind of a pissed off mood?
Well, if I was in a pissed off mood, I would say, "Wife, I love you. I really do. But let me at least get like a night's rest." And
That's
and
what I'm thinking.
I will tell you what, let me get a night's rest. And if you tell me first thing in the morning, you get all excited like it's Christmas morning, and I get a little bit of, a little bit of sexy kind of in the morning, because you're just like, hey, I got something I want you to do for me. I'm gonna do something for you really quick. And didn't you like that? Now, you know what would really make me happy now? No, no, don't worry. It's okay down there. All you got to do is just just put that thing together. And you know what? Tonight you might get some more of that.
Tonight, I'm cleaning the cover on the yoga couch, and we're gonna Titanic that thing in. The the ER doctor's gonna be like, "So what exactly?" Well, what had happened, your doctorness, was that, see, after a couple margaritas, I definitely think I'm more limber than I actually am. And we were watching, Magic Mike, and it wasn't really my fault, but I thought I could dance, and I'm more like Elaine, and I accidentally kicked him in the head. It was
Just didn't work.
COVID.
COVID. COVID. It was a COVID death.
Yeah. What had happened, your honorness? Ma'am, you do
Uh,
realize everything you say can and will be used against you in court. Yes.
you're like,
I'd like
"Ooh,
to
I
call
actually hope so." Can you hold it against
I'd like
me
to call
tighter?
MLS, my lawyer, please. And my drunk dialing attorney. Thank you.
There you go. Well, let's hear what these assholes have to say, because
Yeah.
they're really trying. They have been trying all day.
2019.
Okay.
So could you give us an idea, that being a fact, when you would have had this communication about meeting with Ms. Willis at the that is Mr. Wade meeting Ms. Willis at the conference?
If that's the conference that they were at, yes, then, I don't know how many municipal court conferences there are. I do know that at the time that I was in the firm, Mr. Wade was,
It's one every year.
he had some position with the municipal court.
Oh, they
Right
have
now,
a
my only
lawyer
question is
prom?
time-wise.
How
Assuming
cute.
it's October 2019,
All of
when do
these
you
lawyers.
tend to remember? What's your best recollection of when Mr. Wade told you about?
I can't remember because I didn't even remember that it was October 2019 until you said that.
So you don't have a present recollection.
I do not remember that, no.
Had to be before the contract, though, in January of 2021, correct?
That they met?
No, that you were told about
Wow, another
Mr.
state
Wade and Ms. Willis
motto.
meeting at the conference.
IDK,
Had to be
Oh,
before.
yeah, yes, it would have been before that, yes.
So what other communications did you have with Mr. Wade about Ms. Willis that are not privileged? We know of one about the meeting at the conference. Are you suggesting that that's the only one you ever had about Ms. Willis that isn't?
I cannot recall any. I cannot recall.
You cannot recall whether there were any other communications that weren't privileged?
No, because I don't want to get my ass in trouble, dude.
No.
Look, I have to go
I'll be
home
specific,
and
and
she's
I understand there's
scary.
probably going to be objections, but I want the record to reflect.
No, dude's sitting there going, "Listen, start asking me what." It's that old saying of like, ask the right question.
Yeah.
And they can't say this, but he's just like, ask the correct question. Once you ask the correct question, then I can answer it. Until then, you're just fishing. And they know that they're fishing. That's why he's able to, skirt around the outskirts of all the bullshit that is being fed out there, because nobody's asked the right question. And if they do ask the right question, they can't answer it because they will just come around and say, "Oh, that's attorney-client privilege." This guy is a waste of their fucking time. I don't know why they're questioning him or even harassing him so much. It's like, all right,
Is this one
we
of the
all know,
whistleblowers?
huh?
Is this one of the whistleblowers, or is this her father?
No, this was Mr. Wade's attorney
Oh.
that was communicating with Boob Lady, and letting her
Oh.
know that, yeah, they were taking trips to Texas and Florida and Belize, and he was communicating that. Now, see, I would think, and I'm not an attorney, but I would think that as soon as you start disclosing that kind of information to somebody else, you waived your attorney-client privilege. Okay,
Well,
it's
we,
it's
s-
so-
I,
it's
w-
so- it's
yeah,
sort of like HIPAA. Okay, now everyone likes to go off on HIPAA that, well, there are certain HIPAA disclosures and doctors can't release it. The only thing is that if you, as the client of that doctor, you go out there
yeah,
and you start telling everybody that you've got some sort of like VD, and whenever I say VD, I mean Valentine's Day. If you
yes,
start talking about that to everybody in the world, that you've already waived any sort of HIPAA privilege,
yeah,
and that's what I think that they're missing out on, all of these fucking attorneys. Just like, listen, you've already waived that attorney-client privilege as soon as you started texting it out and letting the world know, or at least another attorney know,
well,
that there was some
did he
shady
give
shit
his
going on.
did he give his motivation as to why he was doing? Is he considering himself a whistleblower?
No,
Okay.
no, he doesn't want to lose his fucking job, but he's just attorneys
Well,
like to
then why
fucking
leak?
yap to each other. He wasn't
Oh,
intentionally leaking. He was just like, he was communicating back
oh,
and forth, and the gossip tree,
oh, what a
attorneys
dumbass.
attorneys are total fucking gossips, and he's a total fucking gossip. And now he's
Oh, I
going,
know,
fuck, I wish I wouldn't have done that.
but of all the dumb things to gossip about to the chick that's doing, a case against your boss lady.
Yeah, but he's also going, shit, I'll just turn around and say attorney-client privilege. I mean, it's like I said,
Well,
all of these motherfuckers are shady as fuck. If attorneys are shady motherfuckers, I know. I'm married to a goddamn attorney. They do shady goddamn shit, and they will skirt around the fucking edges ever so slightly, because there's certain things you can get away with and certain things you can't. My wife happens to be pretty damn out front with a lot of the bullshit that she pulls. It's just like, no, this is the law, and I'm gonna stick by it. And you know, but whenever she's communicating with you, you have to really watch what you say, and you have to really watch the wording that you use.
oh,
Yeah.
see, you're saying this like, um, welcome to the life with middle school girls.
Mm.
Middle school girls are emotional people with bad intentions, extremists, and everything that you can and that you say can and will be used against you. So,
Or misconstrued against you, one of the two.
oh yeah, oh yeah,
they
teenage
will they
girls
will
are.
twist those words. You have to be very careful with the
Oh, I
wording
know.
that you
I
use.
told my I told my daughters, I was like, "Look, I wanna tell you that middle school gets better, but it doesn't. Everyone spends their entire life thinking, 'Thank God I don't have to fucking go back to middle school,' okay?" So, fortunately, some people grow out of their a-holiness, okay? Now, some people
Mhm.
stay in that for the rest of their lives, but some people grow out of it, so there's the good part.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
Godspeed.
Godspeed to all of you assholes.
Did you have a conversation with Mr. Wade prior to November 1st of 2021 about Mr. Wade dating Ms. Willis?
Mr. Wade has risen. An objection is sustained for the record. Excuse me, Mr. Evans.
Say that again.
You don't have to answer the question, Mr. Bradley. Next question, Mr. Dana.
Well, I understand it's been objected to and the court has sustained the objection. Can you tell us the circumstances in which, that is, under which Mr.
Because that screws
Wade
up his.
may have told you
He
about
hired this
dating?
guy
What I
as
want to
his
do is try to figure
divorce
out if we can,
attorney.
you tell me if I can do this.
Smart.
I'd like to know how the communications themselves took place, where they took place, how they took place, under what circumstances.
If you want to make it difficult for somebody to have a divorce, what you do is you retain every single divorce attorney in your county. Okay. If you want to make it really fucking difficult if you have the money and you want to make it difficult for someone to have a divorce, you retain every single divorce attorney in your county. All the good ones first, of course, because those are going to be the ones that cost the most money. So whenever the divorce starts going about, they're going to have to find somebody outside the bounds of it to actually deal with. And then you can like pull your retainer and you can say, see you later, bye. But that is the way. If you want to screw somebody over and make it where they have to get somebody that maybe is not as good at divorces, get them in there. But you hire up the good ones first. You retain every single damn one of them. And it's bullshit, but this is what attorneys do, just so you know.
Oh, wow. Oh, well, I'm glad I'm not married to one of those.
Yeah, be glad you're not. They will pull that kind of shit. They'll just be like, yeah, I've already retained, because they know already the divorce is about to happen. They're just like, yeah, we're gonna, yeah, we'll do this amicably. We'll make sure that your ass gets handed as little as possible, and I'm good. I can honestly say my sister, whenever she got divorced, it was probably the most amicable divorce that you've ever seen. She said, I've got my 401k. You've got your 401k. You can piss off with that. I'm going to piss off with mine. Our business we're selling, our house we're selling, and we're splitting that down the middle. There's certain things that I want because they came from my family, and there's certain things that you want because they came from your family. Other than that, piss off. And they actually had they had basically a mediator. They went through the divorce. They sold off their business. They sold off their house. They split everything equal, and they fucking moved on with their lives. And they still, to this day, they're still good friends, but they just realized the divorce they realized that their marriage was shit, that they both were not happy. And they were just like, the only reason we're together is for our two boys. And, you know, the two boys will fucking get over it. You know, it's a really shitty way of looking at it, but you know, sometimes shit doesn't work out.
Yeah.
You know, you're married for 25 years, 25 plus years, and all of a sudden you're just like, you know what? I just don't want to be with you anymore. It happens. You know, it's
right.
No fault of anybody's. Yeah, good stuff.
At the time, providing advice or seeking advice. So those are the basics. If I can ask you to all those, but if the court's going to sustain the objection to those, then I don't want to waste your time.
And that's something I'll cover in camera. So I'll note the question, your question for the record, and I'll sustain the privilege objection to that.
All of this prior to November 1st, 2021. Okay. I'm going to show you two text messages. I don't have a hard copy of anything.
Text message?
This is
Is one of the girls trying to call you?
Where, what is the date of that one?
just a minute. This is the first one.
Yeah, this guy's on a hot seat, and he's just like, fuck. He is already formulating in his head what he can do to get out of this shit that he's got himself in the middle of. This is why you don't represent your friends in a divorce. This is
Do
why.
you want to get into the content?
I'm going to set up a question based on it. Yes. And then here's the follow-up. You can see the date is still moving.
Okay.
I want to be able to show it to him, and then I'm going to frame
All
the
right, where
appropriate
do I get a
question,
white
and then you're
Russian?
going to object it. We'll see where we are.
I feel like
Yeah.
someone's
Oh, you
peeing
raised
on my rug.
Oh,
No one's listening to me.
are they peeing on your rug? Don't let them pee on your rug. Why did Boo pee on your rug?
Here, look at this text message.
I'm just
Why
over
was
here
the-
trying to play with wigs.
Why was the
Wait, can I
Chinaman
read
peeing
that?
on
Of
your
course.
rug?
No one knows anymore.
Oh, damn it.
Okay. Okay. And then this is the second one. It follows right behind it.
Oh, this guy's like, fuck.
I like how daintily the judge is sitting. That's
That's it.
very
Check.
Yeah.
sweet of
Yeah,
him.
he's just like, he's like, you guys got to
Okay.
prove this shit.
Then he
to
must be a
me."
soothsayer. Mr. Bradley, I showed you two text.
You know, here's the tough position that the judge is in. In case you don't know, that Mr. Roy Barnes was up on early on, which I didn't realize he was the first person. So Roy Barnes got up there and he was just like, yeah, I know both these people. Yeah, we met. She wanted me to become special prosecutor for this one, and I turned it down. And Mr. Wade was there in that little meeting. But you know, he's very political, very much a politician. He knows the things he can say, won't say, and shouldn't say. And you know, he doesn't have to obfuscate around the fucking questions. He answers the questions, and they're very careful on the way they word them. And he was just like in there and out of there in less than like 10 minutes. This guy has been on there for goddamn hours. I skipped over Dad's testimony because his testimony didn't mean shit. And Dad is pretty goddamn awesome. I like fucking Dad. Fanny Willis's dad is pretty goddamn cool.
I mean, like I said, I agree with him on the, have money, be able to take care of yourself kind of thing.
Yeah.
Maybe not take it from political funds, but
yeah. No, Dad was pretty straight up. And he didn't go into all the political funds, but he was just sort of like, yeah, I mean, I was retired and we're living at the house and people are showing up at the house that my daughter owns, and they're writing the N-word on shit. They're writing bitch. They're like pissed off. They're acting like assholes. Don't do this shit to fucking people that are politicians. It's like, if you don't like them, don't fucking like them. If you're sitting there, you're trying to burn down their house and you're making threats to their children, go fuck off. That's just not right. It's like, I don't have to agree with fucking Biden or Fanny or anybody that's on the fucking left or the right or independent. I don't have to agree with you. But if I take it to the point where I'm going at you or your children or your family, go fuck yourself. Like, I don't care who you are. That's just wrong.
It's so unnecessary.
It is
so unnecessary. And look, she is coming at it from a political thing. This is totally a political stunt.
Yes.
And it's a double-edged sword because, unfortunately, where people that have base principles and not ideology, they have that stopping point. Where people have ideology, they don't have that stopping point. So there's always a side that's going to maybe be less inclined to take it that far. Now, there's always yahoos on either side, but this is at least a sign to me, whether this win, lose, or draw for this, at least people are starting to, the side that is usually, can we just lose with dignity?
Right.
Is at least starting to say, hey, wait a minute. Maybe I don't have to lose with dignity. Maybe I could do something.
Right. And that's where we're at with these assholes.
Text messages, correct. Both of those text messages occurred on January the 5th of 2024 at approximately 11:56 a.m. Am I correct?
I think so, yes.
Okay. And the text messages would have been between you and Ms. Merchant, correct?
I didn't see it. Yes, it should be.
Okay. And I've shown the same two to prosecution, so we were talking about the same two. In the text message to Ms. Merchant, you indicated knowledge of some activity on the part of Mr. Wade, correct?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to
I haven't asked him anything about what the
flag for the court that this is a topic and a specific exchange that Ms. Merchant went into and there were objections that were sustained.
All right, understood.
Yes.
And it's your testimony that the information that you imparted to Ms. Merchant in these two text messages is based entirely on confidential communications between you and Mr. Wade, correct?
Objection. He's referencing specific knowledge. The specific knowledge comes from Mr. Wade, which is we've already established.
Well, the question, he didn't get into anything. He just said, are these two text messages about privileged communications? We haven't actually, he's tested. I don't see an issue there.
From a good lawyer.
Yes.
And is it your testimony that the knowledge that you have, which you imparted in these two text messages, came from Mr. Wade and Mr. Wade alone?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Can you tell us when it was that Mr. Wade imparted this information to you?
Objection.
All right, and I think
That's what you're going to do.
sure. So I'll sustain that on privilege.
And I'm going to introduce for the
I can
record when we
understand
finish these two text messages so that Your Honor has those back there so that you can,
Sure. What would they be marked as?
what do you have?
I pulled that, you can mark. Okay.
I don't know. Blondie had some cute legs. I don't know who she was, but
Go ahead.
Oh, the contract.
I just saw her stand up. I was like, oh, legs.
Once I put a staple in it, I think it'll be Defense Exhibit 26. All right. You have to give me a real pen that works, not a line.
All right, so this is marked and made part of the record as Defense Exhibit 26, but not necessarily for its
This is not
evidentiary
admitted
value.
This is for purposes of the court conducting the
Don't know who
in-camera
she
review.
was.
And put a staple in it here to make sure.
But whoever that is right there, she had some nice little legs.
No charge?
No, it's free.
All right, I'm gonna say that. What else?
All right, so There was also reference, if I remember correctly, to some email correspondence in which Ms. Merchant sent you the motion that she was going to file to disqualify Ms. Willis and Mr. Wade for your review. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And that was sent to you in an email?
That was correct.
And did you respond to it in an email?
I don't think I responded to her in email.
Ashley, do we know?
He's responded by text.
You responded by text.
Yes, by
I'm sorry,
text.
I mischaracterized it. You responded by text?
If I can look at my text, I can. But I'm assuming I did. But
I might have
Yeah, I'm gonna get
deleted
to it.
that
Okay,
text
I don't want to
too,
see any assumption. As we have it.
because I don't want to
I
get my
mean,
ass in trouble.
Let me show you, this is the email.
What's bleach, Brit? I have no idea. Why do I have a ball peen hammer?
Here's.
I don't know. Why is the wood chipper there? I don't know. Could be any reason.
Love your tone.
Just like, fuck. You guys stop hammering me with this shit. Damn it. We're just trying to make sure that President Trump is never allowed to.
I'm going to show you
run
if I
for
might approach.
office
I made reference to an email
Yeah.
that Ms. Merchant would have sent you about the.
You know, and this is my point, is like, when does this become election interference? Whenever you start saying that you're going to go after somebody wholeheartedly like this, and you're going to impeach them on all this stuff, you're going to convict them on all these kind of things. When does it become election interference? That would be my question for all of these people that are going after a former president. Because if he wasn't running again, do you think they'd be going after him? They would not give two shits. They would just be like, oh, you really don't care. January 6th wasn't a big thing. They would just be looking at it like, we don't really care. We have no idea what you want to say, what you want to do, what you gonna do. But no, they are going after them whole hog. And I've got something really cool I want to show you after this. It's pretty damn awesome, but I've got to relieve my bladder.
Okay.
Do you want to talk?
Sounds good. If you want it to go or you want it to pause or what have you, I can fill whatever.
Well, I can let it go because I can still hear it, you know.
Oh, okay.
My bathroom's right over there.
Look, I gotta book it.
I've got to hit the head. So we'll let it play for a little bit.
The motion she was going to file, if you look at this, does this appear to be the email that you received? It's dated January the 6th, 2024 at 10:20, can't make it as 5 or 6, 10:25 a.m.
Yeah, I see it. The email, yes.
So that's the email that you received. Along with, obviously, the attachment, which is referenced.
Yes.
Okay. And then, did you respond to that email within the text message that I've just placed before you?
Yes, I said looks good.
So the answer is yes.
Oh, yes, I did.
Okay. We'll mark this as another exhibit for your honor to look at. Since you love my tone, can I have some?
No, I said it creates some nerves.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't catch that point. Okay, I'm going to have these marked as 27. Okay. All right. So is it your position that what is reflected, let me hand it to you. Yeah. What's the course rule, to ask or not to ask?
We'll take it case by case. I think he's doing all right. So no need to ask for this witness.
Is it your position that your response, which is the second page of Defense Exhibit 27, is based on a confidential or confidential communications that you had with Mr. Wade?
Maybe, could have been, should have been.
Well,
I mean,
what had happened?
Do you want me to read the response?
No, I'm only asking you whether or not the response, you actually
I don't
already
want
said
you to
what
read it
said.
out loud, but I
I
want
don't want
you
you to read it again. Is that response, excuse me, based on confidential communications that you had with Mr. Wade?
Objection, this is privileged and, you know, that.
All right. So now we're talking about the email. Since we're referencing
Yeah,
the motion as a
no,
whole, he
it's
hasn't been asked
not.
to actually
It's not
confirm or deny any
privileged.
specifics, just to say whether his response is privileged. So I think we're just laying the foundation, just like we did with the text message. So you can answer that question, sir.
Was my response privileged?
No. Was your response?
So basically, here's what the attorney proposed, and I'm just pointing this out here. What the attorney is pointing out is that he sent a text to the blonde booby attorney, you know, Miss Boobs, sent a message to her, and his question to him is, was this attorney-client privilege? It's not a fucking hard question to answer, except he knows the answer already. He knows that if an attorney is texting another attorney and he's trying to all of a sudden claim, oh, it was attorney-client privilege, well, who's the attorney, who's the client? Because it would be like saying me hiring Mo to be my attorney, and then I turn around and I tell Lefty all of the conversations that Mo and I had, or Mo carries on a conversation with Lefty and has this conversation with him of yeah, you know, that you know, we found that I was talking with Shizzy and I found out that, you know, he was on this like massive killing spree and like deleted like half of Seattle. And all of a sudden, so is that attorney, you know, I told Mo this in attorney client privilege, but she broke that attorney client privilege by telling Lefty all of this stuff. So does that mean that it's still attorney client privilege? And that's what this attorney's getting at. And I guarantee you,
Yeah.
it's like he's getting his ass handed to him on it. It's just because you guys are already communicating basically ex parte. It's like you've already waived the attorney-client privilege. You're having these conversations outside of that, and you're screwed. I love
Yeah.
this guy. Did I hit it right? Did I hit it? Did I hit the G spot?
Yeah, I think that's fairly accurate from what I've gathered from the law. You can't, you can waive your attorney-client privilege by your own actions. And if he's talking, you know, kind of out of turn and he lets things go, then really he was saying that as almost as a private citizen at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. It would be
And
common knowledge that anybody could have.
yeah.
You know, attorney-client privilege would be just like, listen, I'm telling you as my attorney that I've been banging Fani in the back room like every single day for like the past 3 weeks. Yeah, you can't really disclose that. But you if you happen to disclose that, yeah, they might be, you know, screwing around, you know, they're taking trips together and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, you sort of breached the attorney-client privilege at that point in time. Maybe not hire your best friend to fucking be your attorney. That's a good idea.
Yeah, or maybe,
Response
you know,
to
not
the
get a
email of Ms. Merchant, which is on
catty
page 1
friend.
of that exhibit.
Yeah.
Is your response, which is on page 2, is that based on knowledge that you received from Mr. Wade pursuant to confidential communications?
Yes.
Oh, is it? But then you breach that attorney-client privilege. You can see his fucking heart sink.
Have
right
you
there.
discussed with the district attorney's office this case, or your purported testimony?
Of my testimony?
Yes.
No.
At all?
No.
No prep, no conversations, no nothing?
No.
Have you given your attorneys, for this matter, did you give him permission to speak with the district attorney's office?
Well, he can assert his own privilege, but that's kind of crazy.
Is there a objection to be heard?
Absolutely. This is
Okay,
perfect
sustained. Next question.
Do you know whether or not your attorneys shared privileged information with the district attorney's office?
No,
I
I
don't
don't
know.
know
I
what
don't
my
know.
attorney shared or didn't share. I don't know if they even met.
Oh no. Lawyers don't ask questions they don't know the answers to, because no one wants to look like an asshole in front of the judge.
Well, no, he has a really bad question because he got flummoxed. Because what he asked him was, do you know, have your attorneys, and you have to listen to the question really hard, do you know if your attorneys have discussed this? Now it would be like me saying something to you. Now make sure that you don't tell Zach what's going on here. And so to my knowledge, I shared with you a whole bunch of information. I told you, now make sure you don't tell Zach. Now, if you just happen to tell Zach everything that I told you, I don't know anything about it because I told you not to. And that's like I said, it's all in the wording. And this attorney got totally screwed on it because he should have asked it completely differently. Like I said, rabbit holes.
Have you spoken to Mr. Wade prior to today? No, actually, withdraw that. You're no longer in the same partnership or fee sharing arrangement with Mr. Wade, correct?
That's correct.
When did you leave that fee sharing partnership, pseudo partnership arrangement?
Pseudo.
I don't remember the hard date, but maybe sometime like July, August of 2022, I think.
Okay. And what was the reason for the partnership or the fee sharing arrangements? What caused the separation?
Taking more money.
I wanted to leave and go out on my own.
And that's the only reason.
I want to leave and go out on my own. Yes.
I understand, but that was the only reason. There wasn't any.
Isn't that amazing? He's like, I want to leave and go out on my own. So basically, Mr. Wade was taking a big chunk of all the money that was coming in, and that's what he's saying. He knows he was getting the short end of the deal because he doesn't have his pecker in Fani Willis. He doesn't have his pecker in there. He's not getting the big chunk of change that he is. He's getting a small little portion. He's getting all the like the little after shot, the little spray back that just sort of splatters off of her face. That's what he's receiving. He's just like, yeah, I'm sort of sick of that. How about this? How about I strike out on my own? And that way I don't have to share any of my fees with this asshole, this narcissistic little bastard that's banging Fanny, and she's giving him the big bucks. And, I can collect all those fees on my own. It's going.
And again, RICO cases are really complex. And the one lawyer that actually had any previous experience was getting the least paid of all of the people. Does no one have to run a budget? But I mean, not that I'm asking for a friend because I'm printing up election posters, but I mean, no one has to pass a budget past anyone. I can just like hire my friends.
Yeah. No, you can't. That's the thing. And this is what happens, especially here in Georgia. What'll happen is everybody ingratiates themselves to one little party or one little group, because I know of some that are actually being fired in certain counties that might not be ever able to run again, and we're talking like multiple counties, different locations. That basically what they'll do is they come in and they'll run roughshod through the whole system, and they'll fire everybody because they were aligned with X politician, but now I'm B politician, and I don't want you screwing up my chances of reelection. So I'm going to fire everybody. And you know what? My buddy right there, Latresa, Shaniqua, yeah, they helped me out here, so I'm going to help them out. I'm going to give them a spot right here. It doesn't matter if they're qualified or not. I will teach them everything that needs to happen. I will show them everything that they need to do. But you know what? I can pay them less than I was paying the other people. And you know what? They become my best buds because now they have a fucking job and they're going to work really hard for me until everything goes to shit. Then whenever it goes to shit, I can fire them and just call them incompetent, call them stupid, whatever I need to do. Send them on their fucking way. Hey, Jude. Hey, Jude. It's insane. This is how politics works. This is why whenever people are like, hey, I want to clear the swamp out of Washington, Trump never realized what the swamp was. It was all a speaking point. If you wanted to clear the swamp out, you would have fired every single one of those motherfuckers that were below you. Like anybody that's below you, you're fired. And then I'll tell you what, I'm going to fire everybody underneath me. Everybody that I can fire, I'm firing. Those that are not elected, you're fired. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to submit an application. Tell me why and what worth you have to actually hold this position or this job. You come in here, you talk to me, you sit down, you tell me what worth you're going to provide to my company. Because my company now is the United States of America, assholes. So tell me what you're going to do for me, how you're going to help out. Oh, you type, 6,000 words per minute. You're a fucking goddess. And I'll tell you what, you can sit there and type up all of my speeches. How's that? You're the most awesome speech writer. I want you to write my speeches. It's like, and this girl right here, I want you to work with her because you're going to type it up. That's how you clear this shit out. You say, every single one of you motherfuckers are fired. You're gone. You're out of here. Pack up your bags and go. Every single one that you can, you get rid of them. And you say, you come to me, you talk to me. I'm going to spend the first 14 days, and all I'm going to do is from the time I wake up to the time I go to bed, you're going to come in here and you're going to do an interview with me, and you're going to tell me why you need to have this position. If you can't prove to me why you have this position or why you need to have this position or you're worthwhile, then get the fuck out. There's the goddamn door. Go.
Yeah. And he didn't realize, I don't think he realized the amount of bureaucracy and the amount of pushback from the Republicans. I don't think I think he thought that he could just flatter them and come in. He didn't realize that Mitch McConnell thinks he's king of his own little turtle cat kingdom, and
Ladybugs.
then you'd had
That's Lindsay.
Paul Ryan. So
don't trust a single one of those.
No.
Don't trust them. Ever. Don't trust these assholes. You see these politicians, you see them on a regular basis. You see people like this right here, and you think that they're your friend, they're your pal because, oh, they're an attorney and they have that Esquire next to their name because they went to school. You know what they went to school to learn? They went to school to learn how to fuck you over. Simple as that. Every attorney that you meet, they went to school to learn how to fuck people over. And it's just a matter of them making sure that they have the law backing them fucking you over. Every single one of them. And I'm married to a lawyer. I'm telling you right now.
I was going to say, Shizzy's Valentine's Day cards is, I love you in spite of your lawyerness. You're welcome.
I love you in spite of you trying to like obfuscate the matters of fact. Despite all
everything else,
I
plead the fifth on everything else.
Exactly. No, I love my wife, and it's attorneys are they have a different mentality. They have a different thought process of how can I make sure that I win. It is all about winning for them. And sometimes it's just the little battles, little ticks, little things where it's just like, I have to win this argument. I have to win this battle. I have to be correct. And they'll give you ground. They'll give you ground to make you think that you're winning, but you're not. Because in the grand scheme of things, they're going to go, oh, but there's this right here. Trust me, I've been, it's like I was talking with Barnes one night, and I was sitting there going, yeah, trust me, your idea of women and all this bullshit, I respect it because you are correct in about 99% of it. I am different than that. Oh yeah, you're different than that. I got you. You're good. You're different than that. It's like I could see where he was going. I was just like, he doesn't want to insult one of his hosts. I got you. I know where you're at. You're cool. But no, trust me, it's completely different than what you think it is, because I just don't give a shit, because I don't have to be married to my wife. I choose to be married to my wife. I'm happy to be married to my wife, and we have a wonderful relationship. Do we disagree? Yes. Does she walk, slap shot all over me? No, I don't let her do that. I know whenever it's time to go, stop. But there's certain things I'm just like, is it really worth that kind of fight? Do I have to win every single battle? No, because I'm not an attorney. I don't have to win every single battle. I don't have to win every single fight. Let her win. It just ends up with, like, this is not a road that I'm willing to go down and die over. Speaking of go down and die over, it is 5:30, and
Yes.
guess who is firing up? God damn it! I'm gonna have to pull up the YouTube to make sure I send everyone over there, because I'm going to show up over there probably after I eat dinner, because he's pretty damn awesome. and he's
Yes.
he's a shithead, but he is pretty damn awesome. And you're probably going to go over there also and give him shit. Which you better,
No, I'm
because
gonna probably remind him to eat food while he's drinking his 2011 shots and
Jesus
hot
Louise.
sauce. Or
And I'm sure
I
there
might
probably
be in
is.
chat, depending on everything, because with the cold front moving in, it was
Yeah, that is right. You've got the cold front moving in. There it is. Boom. Save. There we go. And what'll happen is I'm going to let it go for just a couple of seconds and see if he's actually streaming first before I release everybody over
oh
there.
yeah.
Because he may already, he's been watching this thing also. I do believe, I could be wrong.
I think so.
Oh, here we
think.
go. We're going to do it. We're going to send everyone over there. He has just gone
Okay.
live. And all
Woohoo.
you sons of bitches, this is for you. And we will cover more of this maybe
Yes.
tomorrow at some point in time. It doesn't matter to me
Yeah.
because it's all political bullshit.
I have
So
to do my taxes. I mean,
taxes,
see how much the government stole from us, and then we still owe money.
well, taxes are for the poors, right? Damn it, I forget. I am one of those poors.
I know. I always put on airs and hope that it will just make me richer, but no.
What? Tell them to eat cake doesn't work. Oh, fuck. Bye, guys.
Dang it.
See ya.